How do I point you at Jerusalem? Stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Day of Atonement. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Hakaparim, Bashalawam, Zawada, Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, or the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the Day of Atonement and peace. Thank you, so be it. The Ha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalms 121. Anya Harayim Mayanyam Ya Oh Harayim Mayan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahawa Shaisha Shemayim Wa'arataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawam Shashamarka Hana La'a Yanawam Wala'a Yayashun Shashuama Yashirella Yahweh Shamaya Yahweh Tazalia Ya Yam Ya Yawamam Hashamash La'a Hakaya Wayarat La'a Balayala Yahweh Yashamaya Mako Ra Yashamar Napasha Yahweh Yashamar Hawalakia Wabawaya Ma'aitha Wa'ai Iwalam Basham Yahawasha So Aman.
Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yashrella, hear, O Israel. Shema Yashrella, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yashrella, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yashrella, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Echad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Stop like Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abi Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatha, Zaba'ah, Ratazawanka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Yowum, Za, Wasalaklanawa, Kabawathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kabawathanawa, Wala'a, Hadiyanawa, O Nasayawan, Abo, Hawashinawa, Mara, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Waha'ala, Wathaparath, La'aywalam, Amen.
Matthew 6 and 9. After this manner, therefore, pray, Our Father which art in heaven. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'ashra Matazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Lakah, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanya, La'ah, Daisha, Lakah, Paso, Wala'ah, Daibadum, La'ah, Talakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka, Lashwa, Zakar, Ath, Hayawum, Hashabath, Lakodashwa, Kabad, Abiaka, Wa Amaka, La'ah, Daratazak, La'ah, Dana'at, La'ah, Daganah, La'ah, Da'ina, Shakur, La'ah, Dakamad, Ko, Asherah, Lara'ayaka, Aman.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which hath brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and holiday. Honor thy father and thy mother, that the days may belong upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Aman, Yeshua, be seated. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nethalanawa, Par Yahagabin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ath, Yasha'ala. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. A model upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Hagadol, Rachuam, Abiyah, Wanara'ah, Aliyah 1, Malak, Shol, Shemayim, Wa'arataza, Wako, Dabayim, Kayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawanawa, Ahabnawa, Hapala, Yawaitaza, Yahushai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Barataza 1, Anka, Yasha'ala, Izarnawa, Bana, Wa'asat, Yasha'ala, O, Nanawa, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayawamyum, Makwadam, Baba Kwasha, Shalat, Mayaka'ala, Wahataz Wadat, Alahayim, La, Magunnawa, Rapanawa, Washamar, Alnawa, Ba'aikwar, Shalat, Haroka, Shal, Yahushai, Lanawa, Alamanawa, Rabium, Kakama, Zabawana, Wada'aith, Shal, Dabarka, Bahasham, Yahushai, so Wada, some Yad, Waiwalam, Aman. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, or War, Lara Awa. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us the ram's horn to call a people. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Korun, Ha'ayol, Lakwara, Ha'aim. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Hasheman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha'ala. Shabbat. You see.
Are we right? I just bring my tape recorder. Hey, a question.
All right. Shalom, Yasharallah. Peace to all the brothers and sisters that are logged on to the live stream, brothers and sisters that are listening on the teleconference line, and to the Akim that's here at the school here in Philadelphia. Again, Shalom, peace, Ashar HaKaparium, which is happy
Day of Atonement, right? So this is a celebration. This is one of the high holy days of the Most High. So this is a celebratory day. We have to be understanding and thankful for the day that the Most High has given us, to be able to understand the importance, the privilege of this day to come before him and to reconcile. While we're in the Day of Atonement, and if you're paying attention to the news and things that's going on, you're still paying privy to a lot of things that's going on, specifically with the Breonna Taylor case, as well as with the other brother Jacob's case too. There's a lot of unfolding information that came out today. One in particular, pretty much the cops were acquitted, even though they found one on some frivolous charges in relation to the killing and murder of the sister Breonna Taylor. They brought out that it just so happened to happen 65 years, pardon me, to the day of the Emmett Till acquittal of the same police that went, or the men that went and killed and murdered Emmett Till. And the information was brought forth that those cops were vindicated from any wrongdoing. It's the same thing that happened today or yesterday with the Breonna Taylor case. Subsequently, they brought out the information, the brother Jacob, who was shot in the back, that the cops plea is that they thought that he was kidnapping the kid that was in the back seat of the car. So that is the reason why they riddled him with bullets as he went to go and lean into the car. I don't know what the rationale is behind that, but again, these are another allegations or excuses in order to vindicate themselves from the situation at hand. So I know there's a lot of marching that's going on right now in Kentucky. There's a lot of marching that's going on in Philadelphia and a lot of different places across the country. Every few weeks, we're going to march and protest and speak about how the government or the state legislators, that the justice system is corrupt. It doesn't show any, it shows favoritism to the police. It doesn't show any justice and equality towards the people who have been victimized, right? So with that, we have to understand that these things are going to continue to happen. Unfortunately, we've been seeing it happen in every month, every year, for I don't know how long, and it hasn't changed, right? So when we're looking for justice, we're looking for laws to be rewritten. When I say we, I'm talking about our brothers and sisters who are out there in the streets. They have to realize one thing, and we're not going to find justice in the streets. You're not going to have them change their laws. You got a president who's saying that if he loses, he's not going to concede. Honestly, he's not going to go out willingly, and he's inciting the militias to start rallying up so that if he does lose, they're going to cause a war and everything else. So we're not going to get that from the system, right? What we will get that from is, I'm going to read this in Jeremiah. The book of Jeremiah, 23rd chapter. Jeremiah 23, and I'm going to read verses 5 and 6. Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 5 and 6. It says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth." So the true judge, the real justice that's going to be given to the people is going to come from the branch. It's going to come from the king, which is speaking about Yahweh Shah Mashiach, or Jesus Christ, the anointed savior, right? He's the one that's going to bring justice. We can't get it from anybody else. Who have we rallied around, or how many countless times we rallied around an individual in hopes that they were going to lead us to justice in order to find ourselves in the same situation, right? As politically correct someone could have been like a king, or as verse, or, you know, threatening as a Malcolm X or whomever it may be, we all rallied around him, but we're still in the same situation. So the Most High already had the true judge that was going to bring and execute and prosper in this world today, and that's Yahweh Shah, or Jesus Christ. That's who we're waiting to come in the earth. When that happens, it says in verse 6, in his days, Judah shall be saved. Right? So when we talk about salvation, when the king comes, when he establishes judgment and justice in the earth, it says that Judah shall be saved. It tells you in Luke, the first chapter, verses 68 on down, it tells you that they're going to be saved from their enemies. Right now, we're seeing what's happening in the world, not just here in America, but in the world, right? We're being murdered. We're being mistreated all over the place, and we're not dwelling safely. We're not saved yet. So when Christ comes, that's when our true salvation is going to be given. It's going to be given again to the people that we read in this verse. It says, in his days, Judah shall be saved and Israel shall dwell safely. We were talking right before the class. It's so much of a impact on our brains, on our minds, that even the little kids, the 5- and 6-year-old kids now are afraid of police, right? We can't even trust each other as a people, let alone the cops or the government or the law. So we're not dwelling safely anywhere, any continent, we're not dwelling safely. So this is what we're waiting on in order to bring that safety. It says, and this is his name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness, right? Speaking about Yahushua by way of the Most High. So until that time comes, we are now preparing ourselves to get ourselves right, to be accepted by the Most High and Yahushua, and not be cast off as a part of the 2/3 who are not going to make it or who are going to die. Just the same way as you see a lot of people dying right now frivolously in these streets, right? They're not dying for charges that you could say, you know what? Yep, they did that. These are charges that you scratch your head and you say, or killings that you scratch your head and you think, how could that be? That doesn't even make regular sense, let alone that you got to go into the intricacies of the law. That just doesn't make common sense. But we're trying to find sense in an unsensible world. So the only thing that we can come to is understand the conclusion that the Most High has given us, that we're not going to get justice in this country until Yahushua comes back. And we have to come back to the Most High and his principles, his statutes, his commandments in order to have that covering, right? Because that's the only thing that's protecting us from everything else that's out there. Because any one of us could be the same Breonna Taylor or the same Eric Gardner or whoever else they may be out there in the streets. So in order to protect ourselves from that, we have to be covered or protected by the Most High, right? So now, just wanted to read that, a little blurb on that, probably go into a little bit more tomorrow during the Sabbath service. But, you know, this is an opportunity for us to increase and enforce that covering or petition for the covering from the Most High, because we know that a lot of those that's out there are being killed and murdered and mistreated by the enemies because of their not following the commandments. They're not following, they don't know the true Messiah. They don't know the true power or the will of the Most High. So those of us who do, we've been given an opportunity to come back to the Most High yearly and ask for forgiveness, to be reconciled back to the Most High, and that we can be under his covering. This is that day. This is why this is a happy day, because you can be out there and not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, or you can be under the covering of the Most High and have that faith that you can continue on and not have to worry about your life being in the balance, right? That you can at least have that trust that the Most High and Yahushua is going to protect you and guide you and nurture you and strengthen you. So I'm going to read this before we get into the actual principles and precepts pertaining to the Day of Atonement. I'm going to read this in Psalms, the 32nd chapter. Psalms chapter 32. Psalm chapter 32, I'm going to read at verse 1. So it reads, it says, blessed is he whose transgressions is forgiven, whose sin is covered, right? That's a blessing to know that you have transgressed or you have gone against the Most High. You come and you ask him for forgiveness and he's granted you that. Not everybody can say that that has been given to him. That's why I say that's a blessing if the Most High extends you that fortune, right? It says, blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no guile, right? So the Most High can look at your sin, see your efforts, see your spirit, and say, you know what? This person really is trying to do the right thing, but he or she has fallen along the way. Maybe they didn't know, or maybe they fall into temptation, but they come back and they ask for forgiveness. So before I put that or lay that iniquity onto them, hold them to that charge and punish them and deal with them, they come in and ask for forgiveness. So you know what? Their spirit is in the right place. I'll forgive them for that iniquity, right? Everybody doesn't have that, especially if you don't know the Most High. So it says, reading on, when I kept silence, my bones waxed old through my roaring all the day long. For day and night thine hand was heavy upon me. My moisture is turned unto the drought of summer. I acknowledged my sin unto thee, and mine iniquity have I hid not. I said, I will confess my transgressions unto the Lord, and thou forgavest the iniquity of my sin. So sometimes, you know, when you have that guilty conscience because of something that you've done, you wronged something, or you done something that was wrong, it sometimes weighs on you. It dwells on your mind. So sometimes in order to clear your conscience, you have to go and right that wrong. So that's what this is talking about. A lot of times it weighs heavy on you, and you don't go before the Most High. You don't go to your brother or sister to right that wrong, and it now weighs you down. But in this case, we have to now go and confess our faults before the Most High, confess our faults before our brothers, right? In order to get that off.
Yeah, as opposed to Psalms 109, verse 7. Psalms 109, verse 7, it says, when he shall be judged, let him be condemned, and let his prayer become sin.
Right.
So as opposed to, the Most High forgiving you, not to make your prayers become sin.
Right.
Ask for forgiveness.
Come. So reading on in Psalms 32, verse 6, for this shall everyone that is godly pray unto thee in a time when thou mayest be found. That's the key. So right now, a lot of times we're saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand, like John the Baptist did, like Christ did, like the other apostles did. The Most High is able to be found right now, but there's a certain point in time when grace runs out where you don't have that opportunity. If you miss the calling, you missed the chance, right? I'm gonna read again. For this shall everyone that is godly pray unto thee in a time when thou mayest be found. Surely in the floods of great waters they shall not come nigh unto him. So that means that when there's a great flood, a whole bunch of destruction and madness going on, the Most High can protect you where it doesn't come upon you, right? That's the faith that we have. Reading the scriptures from before, when we was in Egypt and the Most High was plaguing Egypt, he had none of those plagues come on top of the children of Israel in Goshen, right? It never fell on none of them. Same thing now. The Most High is bringing plagues on the earth, right? If you have the true faith, if you understand scripture, it's happened time and time again. The Lord said he can protect you. So when you got the hurricanes and you got the coronavirus and you got a lot of things going on, the Most High is bringing those plagues. He can protect you so that it does not come near you, right? That's when you now have to realize and say, I got to draw closer to the Most High, right? It says, verse 7, thou art my hiding place. Thou shalt preserve me from trouble. Thou shalt compass me about with songs of deliverance. The songs of deliverance is coming right from the scriptures, right? The book of Psalms is supposed to be like a song, but it's a lot of good instruction and information in the Bible that can be sung in different ways. Just like when you look at the tribe of Benjamin today, right? The tribe of Benjamin and their music, they take a lot of scriptures and make them into songs. They take a lot of verses throughout the Bible and make it into a melody. So this is what is now teaching us, right? This is what's guiding us. This is what's reminding us. This is what's warning us about all the things that's now pitfalls that's set before us that we can now overcome. It says, verse 8, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. It's the same thing that I just alluded to. The Lord will instruct us throughout all of his precepts that he has in the Bible. But ye not as the horse or as the mule, which have no understanding, whose mouths must be held in with a bit and bridle, lest they come near unto thee. So we're not like a dumb animal. We got to have some form of sense, some way of understanding to follow these precepts. We can't be like beasts in the earth, just going about doing what we will and then having to have something in your mouth to guide you. We got the Spirit of the Most High in us in order to get us through. Verse 10, many sorrows shall be to the wicked. Let me read it again. Many sorrows shall be to the wicked. The wicked are going to go through some trouble, right? Like the Bible talks about Jacob's troubles. The wicked are going to go through a lot of troubles. And sometimes that's going to be some of our friends, family members, associates, what have you, that we're going to see that these things are going to happen to. We are not the wicked. We should not be following the ways of the world. We should not be following or running to do the same things that they're doing. If we do, then this is now going to apply to you. Again, it says, many sorrows shall be to the wicked, but he that trusteth in the Lord. How do you trust in the Lord? Doing his will, doing his commandments, right? Because if you don't trust in the Most High, then you wouldn't follow his direction. That's like we was talking about earlier. We got to go out there and really prove a friend. Like you don't want to follow somebody not knowing that they're going to have your best interests at heart. They may be leading you to be robbed or leading you to be killed. So then you don't trust the wrong person, but you trust the Most High. He'll lead you into the right way, but you got to follow his direction. You got to follow his instruction. If you choose not to, whether it's not following the dietary law, the ceremonial laws, like even today is the Day of Atonement, not following the moral or civil laws, how you deal with your brother and your sister. If you choose not to do those things, something is coming, right? And when we're talking about choosing not to do, is difference between, there's a difference between saying that I've fallen and I slipped up on certain temptations and saying that I made an agreement or a covenant with death to say, I'm going to go and follow this thing. I'm going to go and keep Thanksgiving. I don't see nothing wrong with it. I'm going to eat my shrimp, crabs, pork, what have you. I don't see nothing wrong with it. I'm going to go and do what I think is best for me, as opposed to whatever it is the Most High saying. So then you don't have your trust in the Most High, right? You are now following the wicked. So it reads on, it says, but he that trusteth in the Lord, mercy shall compass him about. That's what we want, right? We want to receive that mercy and grace from the Most High in the midst of all that's going on right now. It says, be glad in the Lord and rejoice, ye righteous, and shout for joy, all ye that are upright in heart, right? So that's why even when you follow the Most High, you should be glad. We should not be sullen and sad and scared and fearful right now. We should be happy. Why would we be happy right now? We follow the commandments of God. Why else? Why else will we be happy? The Bible tells you in Isaiah 8:20, to the law and to the testimony. So the law is what he just spoke about. Now the testimony is what the prophets spoke about, what the prophets prophesied about, what the prophets warn us about. So now if we should be happy because we're keeping the Most High's laws, because we're knowing doing the right thing, but what else? We're seeing the prophecies coming to pass, right? We're seeing the thing that the Lord said would happen. So we now are seeing that our salvation is nearer than when we first believed. We're seeing the time that gets short. We're seeing these things. I remember when I first came into the truth, when we was talking about race wars back in the early 2000s and the late 90s, I couldn't see it then. I felt the spirit that, oh yeah, these things are going to happen. Now we in this day where that's right around the corner. It could pop off right now down there in Louisville. Right? The way they got their situations, it could happen anywhere. So now our salvation is nearer than when we believe. So now when we're looking at the trials and tribulations that's going on right now that we have to deal with every day or every other day, just dealing with the common things of the world, we can say, listen, our time is not as long as what we think. You can't see 50 years from now, I'm going to be a great grandpa. No, I'm thinking that this thing is now speeding up, and I'm happy that the Most High is now turning the volume up, and he's going to send Christ back sooner than when we first believed, right? So that's it on that, right? So that's just setting the stage for how we are now supposed to frame our minds in these last days, right? But now, for the Day of Atonement, right? What does atonement mean? What does atonement mean? To make right. To ask for forgiveness. Anybody else? Y'all Kanan?
To make amends for a sin or a fault.
To make amends for a sin or a fault, right? So that's like what we just read in Psalms 32, that first one. Blessed is he's forgiven for your sin or for your fault. So now we want to take that initiative to come and make amends, to be reconciled back to the Most High. When someone trespasses or wrongs you, your initial reaction is to be upset with that person, right? Someone comes and does something to you that you didn't approve of, or you told them that you don't like that, and they do that to you, and you're upset. You're angry. You're like, you know what? I don't want to deal with that person right now. I'm cutting him or her off because that person now has put me in a space where I don't feel comfortable being around that individual. Well, it's almost the same thing with the Most High. When we transgress against him, he now at a point can hold that to us and say, I don't want to deal with you. That's what he did with us as a nation. I'm going to turn my back on you, he said. But now when we have the individual opportunity to come and say, you know what, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong for doing that, right? Then we can be reconciled. And he said, all right, cool. I'm glad you came to me and you made that's honest and sincere pledge to say that you did this and it was wrong, as opposed to some people who don't think that they're wrong, right? Who don't think that the things they're doing is wrong. So they're not going to come and apologize, right? They're not going to come and ask for reconcilement because they don't think that they're doing anything to be reconciled back to the Most High for, right? So this is the day set up by the Most High in order to have those who are now following his will come and have the opportunity to be reconciled back to the Father. All right, let's go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23 and 26. Gabar, Father Kashaf, you can read that.
All right, Leviticus 23 and 26.
Run.
What you say? All right, Leviticus 23 and 26. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And
okay, so it says also on the 10th day. And the reason why it says also, because this is one of the many holy days that the Lord has prescribed for Israel to keep throughout our year, right? So now when you read before this, we've gone through the Passover, we've gone through the first fruits, and now we're at the Day of Atonement. Actually, we had the memorial blowing of the trumpets, and now we're at the Day of Atonement, right? So now also, along with the rest of those, on the 10th day of the 7th month, right? It says, shall be a day of atoning or reconciling, right? This is the opportunity that the Lord has given for everyone now to come and be reconciled back to the Lord. It says, it shall be an holy convocation unto you. Meaning what, Zakar? An holy convocation.
you gotta answer me that again. No, I got the answer.
Holy convocation. It's a what? It's a get together. What kind of a get together?
What we doing right now?
Hold on, this is sorry. You passed on this. It's this.
All right, go by.
What kind of a holy convocation? What kind of get together? Huh? But it just says a holy convocation. What's a holy convocation? Didn't that just go down? Okay. Holy convocation. What's a holy convocation? Y'all, Kanan, help him out.
It's a gathering that the Most High ordained in the scripture that we should come together in His name to celebrate an event for the children of Israel.
Okay, so that's a convocation. What's holy about this convocation? That's what I'm trying to get at. It says a holy convocation. What does that specifically mean?
Okay, what God wants us to do. You say you put the hand this big bolting thing right here. This is what God wants us to do right here. Long time ago.
So get Ezekiel. Ezekiel the 22nd verse, 22nd chapter, sorry. Ezekiel 22. Ezekiel 22 and 26. Yakazak. When you get that, you read that. Ezekiel 22 and 26. That is.
Almost 6. I'm sorry.
Can you read a little louder? I know we got some people on the line. They're probably going to say, can't hear them.
Her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have not put no difference between the holy and the profane. Yet have they showed the difference between the unclean and the clean, and have laid their eyes upon my Sabbath and have profaned among them.
Right. So the Most High is getting on the priests because he says that they have not shown them the difference between holy and profane, meaning this is what is acceptable and this is what is an abomination to the Most High. You got to set the difference. This is what the Most High accepts. This is what he allows. This is what he wants in on his Sabbaths, his sanctuary. Don't bring this in. Actually, I got to let you know the difference between something that's being clean and unclean, right? So now there are things that are abominations unto the Most High that he will never accept, right? And then there are certain things where we as an individual, as his children, we fall into a situation where we can be unclean, right? Whether it's through a childbearing, whether it's through sex, whether it's through killings or murders, you was at war, there's different things. You go into a funeral. So the Lord says, if you now have had this happen to you, you cannot come to my convocation. Right. You can't come to my gathering. So that's why the Most High now has put that in the scriptures, that everyone has to be mindful and understand that. So when we talk to somebody and we say, hey, you want to come down to the school, you want to come down to the Sabbath, I'm hoping that somebody would say, okay, you know what? Maybe this is the first, second time. We just want you to come through the doors. We're not going to hold you right now to those things. But after the fact, any priest, any brother is going to want to guide the individual to say, listen, this is what we also now have to start to understand. We can't do this and we can do this, right? I remember it was a time when we had, I think it was the Passover, and we was bringing food in, and I think the sister brought chicken from one of the chicken places. We was like, you can't have that in here. We got to separate the holy from the profane, meaning the Most High does not want that. And we was like, listen, we got to get rid of that. We got to throw that out. And she was hot. Why? Because in her mind, I paid my money and I bought the sin. Y'all want to eat my food? It's not about us eating the food. It's not about us accepting it. It's the Most High. This is his day. If I sat here and ate your chicken on his day, both of us is now going to be jacked up, right? I'm going to be jacked up. You're going to be jacked up. So now let's remove this out of here, right? So we can set a difference between what's holy and profane. This is what the Most High wants us to do on any day. We got to be in the right frame of mind, because it's just not about physical things. It's all a mind, also a mind thing. You want to try to get certain things out of your mind on his days, right? You don't want to have to worry about work and worry about the this thing. I got to go over there and talk to, try to get my money from that. No, we don't want to have that happen on the Most High's day. You want to clear your mind. All right, so let's go back to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23:27. Gabar, you was reading. Read that again from 27.
All right, Leviticus 23 and 27. Also, on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you. And ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
Right, so it says, and ye shall afflict your souls, meaning what?
Don't eat or drink anything.
Don't eat or drink anything. To what degree? How do we not eat or drink anything? On the Day of Atonement. When does it start?
Sundown.
Sundown. When the sun sets to be the 10th day. When does it end? Tomorrow. Right? So I know Kahan Nabiyah, you sent out text messages, mentioned it during the classes that said, listen, the Day of Atonement is coming up. Start preparing yourself so that you can be mindful to not eat or drink anything. We're not going to eat or drink anything for the purposes of afflicting our soul, right? That's what the fast is. Before we read on, let's go to Esther. You got that one? The book of, I'm sorry, Ezra first. Ezra, then Esther. Get Ezra, somebody get Ezra 8:21. Ezra first, 8:21. So Ezra chapter 8, verse 21. Make sure you write them down too, Zakar. All right. First, I'm gonna get Yahweh Kanan, you get Ezra 8:21. Kahan Nabiyah, if you can get Esther chapter 4, 15 and 16. Esther chapter 4, verses 15 and 16. And while they're reading that, Zakar, you can get the book of Jonah, the 3rd chapter. Again, Ezra 8:21, Esther 4, 15, 16, Jonah chapter 3. I'll see which verse I'm going to start at. All right, who has Ezra?
Yeah. Ezra chapter 8, verse 21. Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might afflict ourselves before our God, to seek of him a right way for us and for our little ones and for all our substance.
Right. So when we just read in Leviticus 23 about as far as for afflicting your soul, and now the precept sends us here that tells you This is how we afflicted our souls in the past. It says, and I proclaim a fast there that we might afflict ourselves before the Most High. To do what? To seek of him a right way for us and for our little ones and for all our substance, right? So in the Day of Atonement, that's what we're doing. We're afflicting ourselves by fasting, right? So now, fasting, what does the fast consist of? Now let's go to the book of Esther. The book of Esther, chapter 14. Chapter 4, it's a lot. Chapter 4, verses 15 and 16. Esther in the Bible, not in the Apocrypha. It's right after the book of Nehemiah. It was 2 books right after Ezra that we was just in. All right. Kahanabiyah, Esther chapter 4, verses 5, chapter 4, verses 15 to 16.
Esther chapter 4, verse 15. And Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. 16. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan and fast ye to me, and not eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
Right. So now it says that we're going to fast, and it says for the fast that we eat nor drink. Right. Some cases people think that a fast is just that you don't eat anything, but you can drink. A fast, according to the Bible, to the Most High, is nothing, nor eating and drinking. Right. For a period of 1 day. Here we see that they did this for 3 days. In the scriptures, we see that Moses and Yahushua did it for 40 days. Right. Your mind and your spirit is what allows you to continue on for X amount of days. You read in the Apocrypha, Ezra, who we just read, he did it for 7 days, several times, right? 7 days when he was dealing with the angel. So the fast is able to be done when you are a compliant, willing spirit. If you are focused on the carnality of the fast, it's like, dang, I don't know if I'm going to be able to not eat for 3-4 hours and 5 hours. Guess what? Your mind is just going to be on cheese and chicken and this, that, and the third. You're not thinking on how can I now redeem myself before the Most High? Or sometimes people fast for knowledge and understanding. I'm trying to gain more wisdom. I need to go and humble myself before the Most High and fast in order to receive that blessing or that gift. We've seen in the gospel where the apostles were trying to take out a spirit that was on someone and they couldn't do it. And Yahushua said, well, this kind right here can't get it out, but unless you fast and you pray. So you now have to go and come before the Most High to receive more things outside of just forgiveness. Fasting is what gives you that. When you now subjugate your body, your flesh, to not yield to the carnal things of the world, and you're trying to now gain more spiritual things. In this case, it's forgiveness from the Most High, right? Now, let's go to the book of Jonah. Jonah chapter 3. And I want verse 7. Actually, you can start at 5.
So the people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed his fast, and put on sackcloth from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him and covered him with sackcloth and sat in ashes.
Right. So now, like we just mentioned, when you would go and you fast before the Most High, this is a form of humbling yourself before the Lord by not giving into carnal things, but now trying to get more spiritual and heavenly blessings. So now, even to take it to the further level, what Israel would do is they would take off their goodly clothes and put on sackcloth, right? So now you're really taking everything carnal and everything that worldly out of the mix, right? You know how sometimes we do, like you'll see some people go to church and you'll have someone will come in with some, regular old clothes, and they may not have the best sneakers or the best shoes, and people looking at them and they judging them based on what they have. But then somebody else will come in, they got the nice suit on and they got the nice dress, and they're getting shown favor because of what they come in with just to go and praise or worship the Most High. But now coming before the Most High don't care about that. He care about your spirit. He's always said, with man, y'all look at the outer, but he, the Most High, Yahushua, look at the inner man or the inner woman, right? So now, so that it now makes you on a higher level, don't even deal with water and food. Don't even look to come in here with your best gear before me. I don't care about that. So to make it even worse, they will put on sackcloth, which is like potato sack type material. And it's not, it's not the best cotton or the best this. You kind of real uncomfortable even in that clothing or attire that's made out of sackcloth. And then you going through your fast and you coming before the Most High. It's another layer of humbling yourself before the Lord. Read. Verse 7.
Verse 7, and he caused it to be proclaimed and published through
Nineveh
by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying that neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything, let them not be fed nor drunk.
Right. So it says, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything, let them not feed nor drink water. So back then for them during the time of Nineveh, they was like, listen, it's just not going to be for man. It's going to be for my animal, my cattle, right? I don't even know how they made sure that the cattle was kept away from food. Cattle were kept away from the troughs of drinking water and everything, right? To me, I was like that. I was reading. I was like, you know what? My dog ain't going to eat, right? But this is what they went to that level at that time, really understanding that the understanding is for us, right? The dogs or the cattle, they not sinning before the Most High. They're most likely more in line and in order than we are, right? Because they instinctively follow the ordinances that the Most High has given unto them. We are the ones that dilute or pollute and confuse the animals and doing things that they ought not to do. But the key here is also says, taste anything, neither taste anything, right? So if you want to take it to that level tomorrow when you wake up, don't go brush your teeth. Right. Because sometimes you may be saying, yeah, I'm in here brushing my teeth, and you brush your teeth and you get water. Yeah, I got to rinse my water out. Oh, I got to drink a little bit of water. No, don't even deal with that, right? Don't go taste no toothpaste. Don't go taste no water. Don't do anything, right? And just make sure that you keep that right frame of mind. Because again, this is all about humbling ourselves before the Most High, showing him that we are really trying to reconcile back to him. And we want to make sure that we don't have nothing tasting, no water, not a little bit of sprinkling. Like, you know how they always say, listen, if you in hell, just give me a little drop of that cold water. For a person who fasts and who weak in the spirit, that little bit of water will help out. They're like, oh man, just a little bit of taste, but no, you don't want nothing. All right. So that's what it talks about, afflicting yourself, fasting, right? And humbling before the Most High. This is what measures we need to take, or what we took in the past. All right. Read on.
Verse 8, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mighty unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hands.
That's the key, right? So when you come on a day to reconcile to the Lord, you just don't apologize. You just don't say, I'm sorry, and then and expect the forgiveness. You want to now turn from your way and then make sure that you don't do anything that's going to cause harm or put someone in a position where they're going to sin. That's what you want to, man. That takes preparation and thinking of how you now need to construct your movements and what things you intertwine yourself with on a day-to-day basis. All right, Thwada, one more verse. Read verse 9.
Verse 9. Who can tell if God will turn and repent and turn away from his
fears,
anger, that we perish not?
Right. It says, who can tell if the Most High going to forgive you and don't punish you? You don't know. But what you do know is that you have the opportunity to come before him and ask for that apology, right? That's what we have. All right, so let's go back to Leviticus 23. So who's reading that? Gabar, you have verse 28.
All right, verse 28. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God.
Right, so no servile work, right, is off the cuff. And when you read other ones, it specifically says no servile work. But then it says in this one, and ye shall do no work in that same day, right? And it's going to even stress it as we read on further down. So that's not a time when you don't need to prepare any food because you're fasting on that day. So there's certain other holy days where it says that you shall do no work save what you need to do for the holy day. So sometimes you may need to go out there like the day of the Passover. You need to go out there and prepare the food and get the meats and do this and get the vegetables and all that requires some form of work to go and prepare that. On the Day of Atonement, you don't have need to prepare any food, right? You ain't got to worry about that. So you ain't got to do no work on that day. No servile work and not worrying about any other work cares around the house, right? Certain things can just be left alone until later on, right? Read on.
For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people.
Right. So that soul that does not want to fast, because that's what it's talking about, it says not be afflicted. That soul that chooses not to fast on the day that the Most High has given him, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. What does that mean? Put to death. The Most High, who knows? The Most High can look on you, especially if you know, and you chose not to do this. The Most High can cause your downfall at a certain point in time. That's what a lot of us don't have the insight on how the Most High chooses or when the Most High chooses to require iniquity or sin on an individual, right? He could have just went out there and done something good and said, you know what? I'm going to go out there and do something good. And boom, all of a sudden, he gets shot or hit by a car. And everybody like, yo, what happened? He did certain great things that was all righteous. But no, remember, the Lord now saw the other sins that he had, and then he said judgment is now going to follow him. Remember in the Apocrypha with Antiochus, he was about to go out there and try to go to war against Israel, and the Most High plagued him, right? And he said that he was so bad that it was like the stench started to come up, and everybody could smell it. And it was an incurable disease that he had. Then it said he repented. He now went and made right everything that he had done, right? But now all these things, he removed the tribute that Israel had to pay. He did all these things. But guess what? The Most High said the judgment was already set. That didn't mean just because he did those things that now we're going to say, okay, cool, I'm not going to have this judgment now fall upon you. That is only for us, right? The Most High only extends that olive branch to Israel. He don't do that for everybody, right? So he still had to fall on that judgment the Most High gave him where he was going to have to be put to death, right? So now when it comes with us, if you choose not to do what the Lord has in store for us to do, he said he can cut you off from among your people. What does that mean? Write down Exodus 31. Write down, just write it down because I'm just going to read it through because I want to get through. We just read verse Leviticus 27 and he just read 29.
That was 20, Leviticus 20. I mean,
23 and 29. So this is Exodus 31. Exodus 31 and verse 14. It says, ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. We've already gone through that. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. That's why it says when you talk about holy, you got to be able to separate holy from profane, clean from unclean. Because if you come on the wrong with the wrong things, if you come with the wrong things, the Most High can put you to death for defiling his day. It says, for whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death, right? So that's what the Lord had as an ordinance for the Sabbath day. When we were in our own setup, now that we're in captivity, sometimes things are out of our control or measures that we're required to do, right? Like, for instance, when we was in slavery, when Esau made us work every day, right? We can't be held accountable for that because Esau is making it that we now have to work, right? So in the land of our captivity, where things are outside of our control, that's where the Lord allowed Yahushua to bring us grace and mercy so that we will not be surely put to death for things that don't comply with the ordinance. That's what it's saying here in these two verses.
Man. Go ahead.
Right? So again, that last precept says, whosoever shall doeth any work in the Sabbath, which is a holy day, Passover, this, that, and the third, he shall surely be put to death. So that's what that means when it says cut off from among his people, meaning that he was going to be taken out by the Most High. So now let's go back to Leviticus 23. So we have verse 30 now.
All right, Leviticus 23 and 30. And whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people.
Right. So as we read through this, the Lord is going to be reiterating the same things over in order to enforce it. So it's not like we wouldn't really have paid attention. Sometimes you got to do that with us as a people. We got to say it once, twice, 3 times in order to enforce it, because, you know, sometimes we're forgetful. Read.
Ye shall do no manner of work, it shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and all your growth.
Right. So it says no manner of work. Before it just says no work. Now it says no manner of work. Right. So that enforces the type work that you need not to do on this day. You don't need to go out there and do laundry. You ain't got to go out there and pick up certain things if it don't need to be dealt with. Some things, like if, like Yahushua said, if your animal fall into a ditch, yeah, you'll go pick it up, right? You'll go save that animal or save that soul. But certain things that don't require it, don't even bother. Wait till the sunset.
Salah.
Hold up, he had to say. Excuse me, pardon.
Salah. What have you got to do there to keep our house filled with things?
That's what I just said. If you are required to work, right? If you're required to work, that's where the mercy and grace comes in.
Okay.
If you are doing it because you just want to do it on your own, and you don't need to do it, then that's when the Most High is looking at you and you being
I'm gonna have to do it. We can't get off that day.
Right. If you now say, sir, I want to get off, I got certain things to do. So listen, schedule is tight. I can't get you off. And if you want to take off, then I just find somebody else. Right.
Okay.
Right. Certain things like that, when they're holding you to a certain thing, or you got to now, you're held responsible for certain things. That's where the grace and mercy comes in for the manner of work. Gabar?
All right. Going back to 27, when they said an offering made by fire, that was just for the Levitical priests. They had to do that work.
Right, that was the burnt offerings, which we're about to get into right after this. Right, the burnt offerings is what we don't do anymore. We don't have that set up to do the offerings. As we always say, when it comes to the sacrificial offerings, those was now taken away and it's been laid on Yahushua. He was the ultimate sacrifice for the nation of Israel, where we don't require. We'll get into those things too a little bit later. All right, read on. We're at 31.
You shall do no manner of work, it shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and all your growth.
Right. So it says, "Ye shall do no manner of work, and it shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings." Meaning what? What is it? What is what Most High saying here?
That's like part of the question I asked you.
What is the Most High saying in that precept?
No manner of work, it shall be a statute forever throughout your generation and all your dwellings. Like, I'm gonna go back to me. I'm gonna have to, are you on the Sabbath? The lady asked me the other day, what day you want off? I say Saturday. You say, no, you can't take Saturday. Yes, I can. If I can't take Saturday off on the Sabbath, and then once I started, it came on. If I can't take off the Sabbath, you keep your job.
Okay.
Because I got, it ain't the kids no more, but I got to take care of bills
Right.
that I had to pay.
Right. But that's not what this precept is saying right here.
Well, okay, explain to me.
Right. That's what I'm asking before I explain. I'm trying to understand and see who understands what that precept. Hold on, Zakar. Come on, calm down. Calm down.
He's talking to you.
Zakar, calm down. Calm down.
You the one who got to get to understand. I got to understand.
All right, Gabar. What's the understanding on that verse?
Now. I'm 31. It said, "You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations." And as long as you, wherever you at, and however long you live, you got to acknowledge this.
Right. Wherever you are at, and however, you continue on to God. This generation is dealing with Israel. So throughout the Greeks Empire, the Romans Empire, Persian, we were always supposed to keep the Day of Atonement, right? Let's go to Romans. Go to Romans, the 5th chapter.
Come back to this, right?
Yeah, we're coming back to Leviticus. Romans, the 5th chapter. And I'm going to read the 11th verse. 5 and 11. No, I got it. So it says in Romans 5 and 11, it says, "And not only so, but we also joy in the Most High God through our Lord Jesus Christ, or Yahweh Shah Mashiach, by whom we have now received the atonement," right? That we have received the reconciliation to be adopted and brought back to the Father. So when we read this verse, most time in mainstream, they think, well, see, we've already received the atonement. We don't have to do no Day of Atonement no more. We don't have to do those things that was in the Old Testament. That's how they read that, right? And this is Paul writing a letter to those that was in Rome. But let's see what Paul and the brothers were doing at the time when he was writing these letters. Go to Acts, the 27th chapter. Acts chapter 27. And verse 9. So Acts chapter 27 and verse 9, it says, "Now in much," Acts chapter 27. 9. Did you write it down? Did you write it down?
I got it in a hurry.
But did you write it down?
I wrote it down.
Okay. So it says, "Now when much time was spent and sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them," right? So now this is after Paul, who was once called Saul, who now is changed in spirit by Yahushua to go out and start teaching. Them at the time still kept the fast. And if you have certain Bibles, good Bibles, will precept this to the Day of Atonement, which is the day of fasting that was annual, right? Once in a year, all Israel was required to fast. So they knew then that they had to keep this fast, even after they received the atonement. that he wrote the letters in. It did not stop them from keeping the Day of Atonement. So no way, shape, or form does man now come and say, I don't have to keep those holy days because Christ came to fulfill them, when we see the example of the apostles keeping those holy days or ordinances after even Christ is seated at the right hand of the Father. All right. So that's just a good example that the fast and other holy days are still to be kept. So let's go back to Leviticus 23.
I'm a bit unclear on that.
Uh-oh.
Come on.
It's very easy.
On the fast,
Yes. You're saying that Romans was before Acts. How's that going?
do you know the letters were written by Paul?
Right.
Right. To those Israelites that was in Rome. Right.
Right.
That understanding that Romans 5:11, as far as we have received the atonement. When did we receive the atonement? From Christ. When he died. Paul was still in the world when Yahushua died.
Right.
Right. So him writing the letter to those that was in Rome was after the fact Yahushua died, and it's after the fact that now he came into the truth. So now he understood that when Yahushua died, his sacrifice was now us getting that atonement, reconciliation back to the Father. So now when we go further, we see that this did not stop us from keeping these same ordinances that we're seeing now in Leviticus, where the Lord said, from generation to generation, ye shall keep it. So they didn't say, oh, well, because Christ did this, we don't have to keep it from generation to generation no more. We don't have to do that no more. And that's just not what the Day of Atonement, that's what any of the holy days, because it says the same thing, that Christ is now our Passover. So now does it mean when it says Christ is now our Passover, when we read it, that we don't got to keep the Passover no more? No, because they kept the Passover. They kept the tabernacles and all the holy ordinances after Yahushua was crucified and fulfilled a lot of the things that we read in the Old Testament. That's going to be how we're going to get into Leviticus 16, how he fulfilled even what we're reading right now for that to be written in the New Testament, right? We're just getting to the holy day, and now we're going to get into the whole ceremony part and how Yahushua is that atonement that we're reading about in Romans, and the fulfillment of other things as well.
No, it says Paul admonished them, but he was
so admonish means to correct.
to correct. Okay.
Right.
Because they didn't keep the fast because it was fast because it was on the waters.
No, it's just not as far as for they didn't keep the fast because they was in the waters. A lot of times, even right now in here, we admonish each other. Right? We admonish them because when you read further down, it goes into what he was admonishing them about. Right? You read 10, 11, 12, it goes into it. It says, and said unto them, sirs, da 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 da. It goes into what was going on at that time.
But it wasn't about the fast?
No, it was just referencing that the fast was past,
Yeah.
and now they're going into something else. So they had to deal with the fast and then now go and deal with other matters. Remember, like we're reading right now, we had to set aside time to keep the fast. I'm not going to go out there and say, hey, I'm going to now go and start getting ships and doing certain things if I want to pay attention and focus on the fast. So that was a reference point to kind of highlight for us, the readers, that this was still being kept. Same thing with other holy days that was still being kept. That's all we referencing. Come.
Okay. It was after the 10th day on the second part.
Come.
When he was admonished. When he put the fast.
Exactly.
So you understand that now?
I think I do.
Okay, well, okay. Thank you all.
All right, so let's go back Leviticus, because we're definitely gonna pass by your timeline, Zakar. Easy. So let's go back. So Leviticus 23.
That's good to be clear.
And no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it for that.
No, you don't.
So let's go to verse 32 now.
Okay, verse 32 in Leviticus chapter 23. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even. Shall ye celebrate your Sabbath.
Right. So it says you got to afflict your souls. And when you begin, it's going to start on the 9th day of the month. So on the 9th day, when the evening comes in, it's now the 10th day. And you keep it from evening when the sun sets to evening to the sun sets the next day. Right. Then it says, and ye shall do what? Celebrate your Sabbath. You're not in mourning. You're not wallowing in your, oh man, I haven't eaten. No, this is a celebration. We have to take advantage of what this day is about. This ain't for you to be sitting there looking at. This is a good thing. You should be happy that the Lord has given. It's not so much about the starving, it's just that the Lord has given you a time, an opportunity to get reconciled. To say, okay, look, I hear your petition, right? I see your sincerity. I see what you're doing in order to show me that you really mean well, right? As opposed to knowing that it could go another way, all right? So this is what the Lord has set up for us to keep. Now, go to the book of Exodus, chapter 30. Exodus chapter 30 and verse 10. All right, let me know when everybody got it. So it says, Exodus chapter 30, verse 10. And Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in a year. The it is speaking about the altar, right? In the tabernacle. When you read further up, read again. And Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in a year with the blood of the sin offering of atonements. Once in the year shall he make atonement upon it throughout your generations. It is most holy unto the Lord, right? So it says that the high priest, which at this time was Aaron, and you read later on, it says those that come from out of his posterity, or the sons of Aaron, right, would now take on that position as high priest, going from Aaron to Eleazar on down. Those are the ones who were set up to perform this duty, the high priest, to go in on this day to keep and offer up the sin offerings for Israel, right? So now we know that he's supposed to do it once in a year. Now let's read how that order was supposed to be kept. Now let's go to Leviticus 16. Leviticus chapter 16 and verse 2. Now keep in mind, as we go through this in Leviticus, the 16th chapter, remember, this is the setup of something bigger. It's supposed to be the setup for Yahushua. We just read in Romans, the 5th chapter. We received the atonement from Yahushua. So as we're reading all this about Aaron and what they were supposed to do, we're going to also try to keep in mind Yahushua and how he's going to fulfill the same things. All right. So Leviticus chapter 16 and verse 2. I'm going to read it from here on out. It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron thy brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat, right? So a few weeks ago, I showed the picture of the Ark of the Covenant, right? And how the Ark of the Covenant had the staves and it had a mercy seat, and it had the two angels with their wings pointed to one another. And then Moses said he would come and present himself on the mercy seat and speak unto the high priest. Let me see if I can get that picture again, just to have it as a reference. Give me 1 second here. All right, so let's see if I can share this. All right, so reading this again, it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron thy brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. So now when you look at this, right, this is now the Ark of the Covenant, and then there's the two angels with their wings pointing to one another, and on top of the mercy seat where you see what is supposed to be a similar to like how the burning bush, like this is where the Most High would appear on top of the mercy seat, right? So this is where this was behind the veil, right? You can turn the TV a little bit. This was behind the veil that's in the holy place. So you had the holy place, and then you had the holiest of holies, right? The mercy seat is right here. This is the mercy seat, and he would appear above the mercy seat, in between the two cherubims, right? So now this was what the Most High instructed the priests in order to construct in the tabernacle, right? So in the tabernacle, let me get another one. In the tabernacle, it looked like this, or something in similitude to this. So now, when you look at this, you can see in the tabernacle, there's once it comes up, you're going to see the menorah, you're going to see the table with the showbread, and then you're going to see the altar of the altar with the horns on it that is now supposed to be the sacrifice, right? So if I blow this up, you'll see it. Yeah. So here, you see the menorah, you see over there in the corner, the table with the showbread, and then you have the altar. Then you have this veil, right? And then behind the veil is the Ark of the Covenant, right? Now, remember, this is going to tie into Yahushua moving later on, because we just read in Romans 5:11 that we have received the atonement from Yahushua, right? We're reading now, I see your hand, we're reading now how it was done in the past with Aaron and the high priest on how they had to go in and perform these offerings for the sin offering for the people.
Then they had to have a rope around. So, okay, TV alone.
Yeah, leave to. I'll get to what it looked like.
Rope around and pull it back out.
No, that's TV.
TV.
Yeah, it's TV. All right, so let's read on. So to save time, you can write down Numbers, the 7th chapter, the 8th and 9th verse. Talks about how the Most High, during the time of Moses, went into the veil and spoke with Aaron and Moses. Numbers chapter 7, verses 8 through 9.
Chapter 8.
Numbers chapter 7, verses 8 through 9. And Hebrews chapter 9, verse 7. All right, those are precepts for verse 2.
Numbers 7, verse 7 and 8, then go to Hebrews.
Hebrews 9 and 7. All right, so now going back to Leviticus chapter 16, we're going to read verse 3 now. It says, "Thus shall Aaron come into the holy place with a young bullock for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering." So Aaron, as the high priest, when he came to do the offerings, he had to also do a sin offering from himself, because he himself was subject to sin. Just because he was the high priest didn't now reclude him from not being able to sin against the Most High. So it says that he had to bring a young bullock for a sin offering. Write down Leviticus 4 and 3. Some of you may already have it as a precept in your Bible to go with that sin offering that the high priest had to do. Leviticus chapter 4, verse 3, to link with that third verse.
What was the verse of the link?
Verse 3.
Of what chapter? I mean, what
We in Leviticus 16.
we still in 16.
Yeah, we're going to read all of 16. So everything that we're going to precept is going to come from out of 16.
Okay. Leviticus 4 and 3.
Right.
Oh, okay. Thanks, man.
We're not going to Leviticus 4 and 3. I said just write it down.
I'll just write it.
Yeah, because we want to save time, because a lot of precepts.
4.
So it says in verse 4, "He shall put on the holy linen coat, and he shall have the linen breeches upon his flesh, and shall be girded with the linen girdle, and with the linen mitre shall he be attired. These are the holy garments, therefore shall he wash his flesh in water, and so put them on, right? So now when he came into the tabernacle, he came in with regular garments on. But then when he now needed to go and perform this ordinance, he had to put on another attire in order to go and do this service, right? This service was very special, and the Most High had him now change his attire. So he came in, and then he went and put on what we're going to see that's going to show up. That's what we're reading here in Leviticus 16:4. So when you see it, you'll see that he has on a mitre, or some of us call it a mitre, and then he has on all the other things that you read about in Exodus 28 that the high priest had to be adorned with, right? So this is the garment, and it's not, to the exact T, right? These are always similar to what, the inspiration that man's mind can conceive of, but it's almost to this, right? This is what that garment that Aaron had on when he went into the tabernacle, that he had to put on, and it was left there, right? He didn't have this, didn't take it out. It was left in the holy place for him to put on to perform the duty that we're reading right now, right? So it says, verse 5, back in Leviticus 16:5, and he shall take of the congregation of the children of Israel 2 kids of the goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering, right? So now we're getting to the children of Israel for their sin offerings, right? It says 2 kids of the goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Verse 6, and Aaron shall offer his bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make an atonement for himself and for his house. So his wife, his children, all of them was now covered by his offering that he made to the Most High. Verse 7, and he shall take 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So now after he's offered his offering, he's now going to bring 2 goats to the tabernacle door, right? It says, and Aaron shall cast lots upon the 2 goats. It says, 1 lot for the Lord and the other lot for the scapegoat, meaning that now it was going to be one that was going to be offered to the Most High, and there was going to be one that was going to be considered the scapegoat. What's a scapegoat?
Okay, well, I see you out of the way. To throw them, gonna make them go that way, and we gonna go this way.
La. What is a scapegoat?
Well, how y'all think? That's the one. It totally say, but that's the one that the sin's going to supposedly go on, and then they let it escape and send it away.
You agree with that, Yakazak? You don't agree with that? All right, what would you say the scapegoat is? Yakazak said, nah, I don't agree with that. What would you say the scapegoat is then? Something is blamed for something, right? And usually the thing that's being blamed for something, it didn't do anything that is being accused of, right? So now, in this case, that's in general, right? You may be in the world, something happens, and they say, listen, we got to have what they call sometimes it's a fall guy, right? I have the fall guy or the scapegoat, meaning this is an innocent party. This is an innocent person. But now all the dirt that we did, we're going to frame it and shape it and put it on him so that he gets caught or she get caught for the crime, right? So that's what this is now. The scapegoat is going to be used for all the sins of the nation of Israel. The other goat was just going to be an offering to the Most High, right? So now reading on in verse 9, and Aaron shall bring the goat upon which the Lord's lot fell and offer him for a sin offering. So they did a lot, whether they choose, draw straws, whatever that lot was, they said, okay, this goat is going to go to be offered for the Most High, and the other one is going to be left for the scapegoat. Verse 10, but the goat on which the lot fell to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to make an atonement with him and to let him go for a scapegoat into the wilderness, right? So that one was now going to be used, kind of was the car was trying to allude to, was going to go that way and this way. But in this case, it was now going to be taken out and then put into the wilderness away from the camp of Israel. Verse 11, and Aaron shall bring the bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself, and shall make an atonement for himself and for his house, and shall kill the bullock of the sin offering which is for himself. So that's reiterating on what is said in verse 6. Verse 12, and he shall take a censer full of burning coals of fire from off the altar before the Lord, and his hands full of sweet incense, beaten small, and bring it within the veil. So now when he went to go and do this offering, now Aaron had to go and take also the sweet incense, right? So now when you look at the image here, if I could find it, right? They had to go and bring what they call incense, where you go on the coal, you went on the altar, took the coal, but he also had sweet incense to put on the coal to burn before the altar. What is this incense? Let's go to the book of Exodus real quick, the 30th chapter. Exodus 30 and 34. Exodus 30 and 34. It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, take unto thee sweet spices, stacte and anyanka and galbanum, these sweet spices with pure frankincense. And of each shall there be a like weight. So the measure was going to be equal. So you're taking those different sweet spices, put them together. And thou shalt make it a perfume, a confection after the art of the apothecary, tempered together, pure and holy. And thou shalt beat some of it very small, and put of it before the testimony in the tabernacle of the congregation, where I will meet with thee. It shall be unto you most holy, right? So that's where he says, when I'm going to meet with you, this was now had to be burned as incense before the holy place. So this is now when Moses was going, or Aaron was going to go and conduct this service. This is what he was instructed to go and take the beaten small spices and burn before the Lord. All right. So let's go back to Leviticus 16.
They know what the Catholics do right now. They had their thing swinging.
Yeah, they're trying to emulate.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, it's
so now we have verse 13. And he shall put the incense. Back in Leviticus 16. We're not going to leave 16. So just make sure. Any preset we give, we're going to jump back to 16 and 13 now. It says, and he shall put the incense upon the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is upon the testimony, that he die not, because he was instructed. So that incense is going to be burning, and it's going to make the cloud. It's going to cover throughout the holiest of holies. It's going to be all throughout that area. And then that's when the Most High is going to come on the mercy seat to present himself before the high priest. Verse 14. And it says that he died not. So if he didn't do that, according to what we just read,
right,
then he will be cut off from amongst his people as well. Verse 14. And he shall take of the blood of the bullock and sprinkle it with his finger upon the mercy seat eastward. And before the mercy seat shall he sprinkle of the blood with his finger 7 times. So on the altar, where the horns are, he's sprinkling the horns, and then he's sprinkling it eastward, right? Before the mercy seat. It says, verse 15, then shall he kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people, and bring his blood within the veil, and do with that blood as he did with the blood of the bullock, and sprinkle it upon the mercy seat and before the mercy seat. And he shall make an atonement for the holy place, because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel, and because of their transgressions in all their sins. And so shall he do for the tabernacle of the congregation that remaineth among them in the midst of their uncleanness. So not only was it an offering for the sins of the people, but it also was to cleanse the sanctuary for the sins of the people, because these sins were being offered every day, right? So on this day, this was a way of to have the sanctuary, the tabernacle cleansed. Verse 17, and there shall be no man in the tabernacle of the congregation when he goeth in to make an atonement in the holy place, until he come out and have made an atonement for himself and for his household and for all the congregation of Israel. So while he, the high priest, in this case it was Aaron, was performing his duty, no one else entered in. right? Because even Aaron himself as the high priest was instructed that he just can't come at all times into the holy place,
Moses.
right? Aaron, right?
Okay.
He just can't at all times.
Aaron
Moses
can
told
go in.
Aaron he just can't at all times come in. So while he's in there, everybody had to be on the outside while he's inside of the tabernacle performing his duty, or the holy place.
Only Aaron can go in there?
Right. Aaron was the high priest. Aaron was the high priest.
Moses could go there.
Right. That's why you said, we read in verse 2, and the Lord said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron thy brother.
Okay.
Right.
All right, brother. All right, brother.
So now,
All right,
when it talks
brother.
about, I'm not sure if this is exactly what was going on, and we read this in Luke, the 1st chapter. Go to Luke, the 1st chapter.
Oh.
Go to Luke, the 1st chapter, and the 10th verse.
Okay, Luke who?
Luke 1 and 10.
1 and 10. Come on, you got it? Luke 1 and 10. Put your hands right there. 1 and 10. And the whole multitude of the
Hold on.
this guy right here. So, he's a computer son.
So I'm going to start at verse 8, right? So this is speaking about Zacharias. It says in Luke 1 and 8, and it came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before Yahweh in the order of his course, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. And the whole multitude of the people were praying without at the time of incense. So it's letting you know that when you are in there doing this duty, everybody has to be out, like what we're reading here during the time of atonement, right? You're praying, but you're not coming in doing this when his service or his duty was to be kept, right? And then you read on, that's when the Most High sent the angel to appear before Zacharias pertaining to his son John. Now let's go back to Luke 16.
Are you sure it's Luke 16?
Leviticus 16. Sorry, Leviticus 16. Leviticus 16. So Leviticus 16, and we at verse 18 now. It says, and he shall go out unto the altar that is before the Lord, and make an atonement for it, and shall take of the blood of the bullock and of the blood of the goat, and put it upon the horns of the altar round about. And he shall sprinkle of the blood upon it with his finger 7 times, and cleanse it, and hallow it for the uncleanness of the children of Israel. Again, reiterating on what we just read in verse 16. Now we have verse 20. It says, and when he had made an end of reconciling the holy place, and the tabernacle of the congregation, and the altar, he shall bring the live goat. So after he's now finished making this sacrifice, which now reconciled everything, he now has to tend to what we're going to do with this goat. It says, verse 21, and Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat, and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgressions and all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness.
And
right?
he take him out in the wilderness.
Right.
And what do you do?
Hold on. So it says, he shall put his hand on the goat and confess over him the iniquities of the children of Israel. Now, remember, this is the scapegoat.
Yeah.
This is the goat that really didn't do anything wrong. He's a stand-in. He's the fall guy. And he's taken upon him or it the sins of the nation of Israel. Whole list, go to Isaiah 53. Remember, this is supposed to be a similitude of what we see in the past in reference to whom? Yahweh Shah.
Jesus.
Yahweh Shah. Right. So this is now Isaiah, the 53rd chapter.
Verse 7. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to jump between two verses. I'm going to start at verse 5. So Isaiah 53:5 says, but he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed, right? So now it says that he now bore our iniquities and transgressions. Verse 6, all we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord have laid on him the iniquity of us all. Speaking about Yahushua. This whole chapter is prophetic about Yahushua, what he would have to go through when he came in the earth, right? Taking upon him the sins of the nation of Israel. Jump to
5 and 6, right?
say again?
5 and 6, that was.
Yes, 5 and 6. Now jump to verse 11 and 12. So verse 11 says, he shall see of the travail of his soul and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquity. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors, right? He became the reconcilement. He took upon him the sins of the people to be reconciled back to the Most High. So that's what we're reading now back here in Leviticus 16, that this scapegoat is doing. He's now getting the sins of the people laid upon him, not doing any wrong. All right. So let's go back to Leviticus 16.
Hold on a minute. Sir, you want to write it down in question?
Let's go back to Leviticus 16. And we have verse 22. It says, and the goat shall bear up 22. 16:22. And the goat shall bear upon him all their iniquities unto a land not inhabited. And he shall let go the goat in the wilderness. Right? So it says here that it was going to go into a land not inhabited, right? Meaning it we're not going to let this go into a dwelling place where there's other people, like in a city or another town, that this now goat can go and symbolically now become a burden or a sin unto the people. It's going to be let loose somewhere else. It says in verse 23, and Aaron shall come into the tabernacle of the congregation and put off the linen garments. Did I skip something?
No.
Okay. And Aaron shall come into the tabernacle of the congregation and shall put off the linen garments, which he put on when he went into the holy place, and shall leave them there. And he shall wash his flesh with water in the holy place, and put on his garments, and come forth and offer his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people, and make an atonement for himself and for the people. And the fat of the sin offering shall he burn upon the altar. So now after he's finished, again, changes his clothes, put on his other clothes, and comes back amongst the people after he's completed everything, right? And then the fat of the altar, the fat of the offering had to be burnt on the altar according to the burnt offerings law. Verse 26. And he that let go the goat for the scapegoat shall wash his clothes and bathe. So again. Should I skip that? Okay, Con, what did I say? Con, for the sin offering, the water. Verse 26. And he that let go the goat for the scapegoat shall wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in water, and afterward come into the camp. So once that animal was let go, the goat was let go into the wilderness, this is what that individual had to do, right? It says, and the bullock for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought into make an atonement in the holy place, shall one carry forth without the camp, and they shall burn in the fire their skins and their flesh and their dung, right? So all that had to be burned without the camp, right? This is from the offering that was made for the sin offering. And he that burneth them shall wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in water, and afterward he shall come into the camp. And this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month on the 10th day ye shall afflict your souls, and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourneth among you. For on that day shall the priest make an atonement for you, to cleanse you, that ye may be clean from all your sins before the Lord. Right? So this is again a statute that was done throughout our generations. Right? It shall be a Sabbath of rest unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls by a statute forever. And the priest whom he shall consecrate, and the priest whom he shall anoint, and whom he shall consecrate to minister in the priest's office in his father's stead, shall make the atonement, and shall put on the linen clothes, even the holy garments. You can write down Numbers chapter 20. Just write it down. We're not going there. For verse 32. Numbers chapter 20.
32.
And verse 26.
Okay.
Right? Because it says, as far as for the one that was going to come in his father's stead or stead, depending on how you say it, that was Eleazar when you read in Numbers 20:26. He was now going to be the son in his line that was going to fulfill this duty. Reading on, verse 33. And he shall make an atonement for the holy sanctuary, and he shall make an atonement for the tabernacle of the congregation, and for the altar, and he shall make an atonement for the priests, and for all the people of the congregation. And this shall be an everlasting statute unto you, to make an atonement for the children of Israel for all their sins once a year. And he did as the Lord commanded Moses. So this is what we had throughout all our ancient years. We had this high priest. We had the tabernacle, where it was the tabernacle or the temple that Solomon built. You still always had to have a holiest of holies, and you had to have the holy place. And you had to have this order being done. So this is what we knew as was the case. The Levites did this. The high priest conducted this order. Now, let's go to Hebrews. Hebrews, New Testament, 9th chapter. Numbers 20:26. Yeah, I just put that precept there. Hebrews 9:1. So this is Hebrews chapter 9, verse 1. Then verily the first covenant had also ordinances of divine service and a worldly sanctuary. So now in the first covenant or first agreement that the Most High made with Israel by Moses, it had a divine service, meaning this service came from the Most High on how we're supposed to worship him, right? Then it says, but in a worldly sanctuary, right? It says, for there was a tabernacle made, the first, wherein was the candlestick and the table and the showbread, which is called the sanctuary. And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all. So that's what we showed earlier when it had let me bring it up real quick, just as a reference. I don't like this one. Give me 1 second.
Why they keep it up with you? You too fast for it.
Huh?
You too fast for it. I look at the news sometimes, they had to wait like, yes, Bob, right here.
All right, so I put this back up.
Okay. Hey, you. How you
So
doing?
now as it reads again, it says in verse 3, for there was a tabernacle made, the first wherein was the candlestick, which is the menorah, which you see here. Right. So here's the menorah in the middle and the bottom here. Then on the right-hand side, you see the table with the showbread. And then right before the veil is the altar with the horns right
Oh,
here,
man, what you got?
right? So it says, and after the second veil, which is the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of holies, that's behind here, which is this right here, right? In this section right here. This is now the holiest of all that has the Ark of the Covenant.
Only Abraham. What's his name? Moses.
Aaron. Right. Verse 4. It said, which had the golden censer and the Ark of the Covenant overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant, or the tablets of the covenant. That's what's inside of the Ark of the Covenant to this day.
All right.
It says, and over it the cherubims of glory shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly, because that inspiration on how it was constructed, it's again, that's man's image to think of right now, but back then they did it according to the Most High's inspiration. Right. So you'll go online and you'll see different variations of what the Ark of the Covenant is with the angels, but what the actual literal Ark of the Covenant and how that's done, you don't know, right? Unless you was the ones who did it in the high priest. Verse 6. Now, when these things were thus ordained, the priest went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of God. So they were always in this area right here, in the front area. But then it says, but into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the errors of the people. So he went into the holiest place where the Most High would come and sit on the mercy seat to offer up the blood for himself and for the children of Israel once a year. Now it says, verse 8, the Holy Ghost, this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing. So the Spirit teaches us that when Aaron and the priests after him were conducting this, this was the stepping stone. This wasn't the real deal, right? And read it again. The Holy Ghost, this signifying that the way into the holiest of all. That's what we called that back then, the holiest of holies. Right. But the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing. What is that saying? Anybody catch it? Okay. Y'all Kanan, did you catch it? Huh? I'm smart. Again, the Holy Ghost, this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing. Okay. So as Aaron and then went into this one,
he couldn't go that far yet, because God didn't give him the eyesight to see that yet. He didn't give him, he not yet. Like you told him, man, swallow that book up. There's time for you to tell everything. He didn't give Aaron everything. Stop, wait, and it's time for you to read all that right now.
Right. It wasn't about time for the read. It was just saying that.
That's the book I'm talking about.
Right. It's saying that the real holiest of holies is where?
Up there with God.
Where the Most High dwells. Right. That's the real holiest of holies.
Right.
This was just a similitude. So as Aaron is going into the holiest of holies there once a year, the real holiest of holies, the way into that was not yet made manifest while this was still standing yet.
Right.
Right. So now, what was that alluding to? That's what we're trying to get after right now as we read Hebrews. Verse 9, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect as to pertaining to the conscience. So it was just a shadow of things to come. It was just a figure for the time present. It was just something to now be a part of and to dwell and look at for something that was coming later on.
There you go.
Now, let's get that. Hold that in Hebrews. Hold this in Hebrews 9 and 9. Let's jump to Hebrews 10 and 1.
Okay, where we at? Who we can speak for?
I just said hold that in Hebrews 9 and 9.
Go ahead.
And we're going to jump to Hebrews 10 and 1.
Hebrews 10 and 1.
So now Hebrews 10 and 1 says, for the law having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect. So it says, for the law, which the Most High gave this law to the priests for them to do, it says, having a shadow of good things to come, right? What does a shadow mean? What is a shadow?
Okay, the sun is shining, but the shadow is blocking the sun. Something is in its way for you to see it all.
Okay, that's your answer. Hold that.
Hold on, come on.
Say again. Hold on. As a car. An image meaning what? Something is about to come. Don't think just what in just layman's terms. When someone says this is a shadow, what's a shadow? Like somebody say you shadow boxing. What's a shadow? Your what? It's like a reflector. So if you have light and I walk in a certain angle, you're going to see my shadow on the wall or on the floor.
But that's not really you.
It's not really me. It's not the fullness of me, right? You're just going to see the outline of me. You're not going to see the full detail of me. So the law, as is written, was a shadow of good things to come. So you only saw an image of certain things, but you didn't see the fullness of it. That's what this is telling you. So even when you read in Galatians, it says, for the law was our schoolmaster. Let me get that real quick.
Hold on to that thing.
Hold on to Hebrews 10. We'll come back to it. Go to Galatians. Galatians chapter 3. Galatians chapter 3 and verse 24. Galatians 3 and 24. It says, wherefore the law was our schoolmaster, right? We just read where it says, for the law having a shadow of good things to come, the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ. So the things that we read about in the law was supposed to now be a shadow of good things to come, which is going to be fulfilled in Yahushua. That's why when we go into like the Passover had the lamb, right? And then we come to Yahushua, he became the sacrificial lamb or the Passover for us, right? Now we're reading about the atonement. We just read in Romans 5:11 that he became our atonement. We did the first fruits. We also read during the time of the first fruits, the ceremony or the service for the first fruits, that Christ is the first fruit of all that have now risen, or will be the first fruit of all that have now risen. So all these things that we read in the law brought us or brings us unto Yahushua. Even this that we're reading with the atonement, it's a shadow of the things to come, right? So now go back to Hebrews 10. Hebrews 10 and 1 again, I'm going to read it again. It says, for the law having a shadow of good things to come and not the very image of the things. Like I said, the shadow is not you fully. It's just the outline, right? It says, can never with those sacrifices which they offer year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect. So even though the Most High had that in the law that Aaron and the high priest had to do those offerings, it never was going to make the people perfect. It was supposed to just be the stepping stone, the building blocks to get you unprepared for Christ's coming. Verse 2, for then would they not have ceased to be offered, because that the worshipers once purged should have no more conscience of sin. So if it was really to purge you from your sins with those offerings, you'd never have to do it again. But they did it every day, every year, these sin offerings were being done, right? So the Most High is telling you that was not the intent for it when it was being done. Even though Israel was now always just coming with these offerings, we were still learning. We still had to understand and build on certain things until Yahushua showed up. Verse 3, but in those sacrifices, there is a remembrance again made of sins every year. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and goats should take away sins. Wherefore, when he, talking about Christ, cometh into the world, he said, sacrifice and offerings thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin thou hast had no pleasure. Speaking about himself. The Most High said, listen, I don't want no other actual animals of herd to be offered up as a sacrifice. I prepared a sacrifice for myself. This is also in similitude to Abraham, right? When Abraham, the Most High told Abraham to go offer him his son, Isaac, right? And at that time, Abraham was going to go and do it. And Isaac had the spirit on him. He said, listen, it's the Most High said to do, Father, go ahead. And the Most High, seeing Abraham's face, said, no, I have a sacrifice offering. It's over there in the thicket. Go get that, right? So that offering that was there in the thicket has now fully come into earth, and that's Christ. An offering and a body has thou prepared me. Christ's body now became the sacrifice. Last one, verse 7. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me to do thy will, O God, or O power. That's why Yahweh said that. I come in the volume of the book. You're like, hold on, you mean the volume of the book? You mean Christ is all through the book? Christ is in the tabernacles? Christ is in the first fruits? Christ is in the Sabbath? Yes, 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 yes. He is the fulfillment of all of that, right? It just had to be a building block. We had to go through those things in order to see the fullness when the time came, all right? So now let's go back to Hebrews 9. Hebrews 9, and we are at 9 now. I'll read it again. It says, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect, as pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks and diverse washings and carnal ordinances opposed on them until the time of reformation, right? Which we're looking at or we're waiting for when Yahushua came. Verse 11, but Christ, being come and high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building. So what they had in the past, that building, that thing that we're looking at right now, that's not what Yahushua, his order or priesthood, is now going to go and do the sacrifices for, right? Remember, Aaron had to go and sprinkle that on the altar. Redemption for us. So when Yahushua went into the holy place or the holiest of holies, where did he go?
There.
Huh? Where did Yahushua go to offer up his sacrifice?
He went to heaven. He died.
Right. He went before the Most High. Right. That's where he's going to go. He didn't go into Solomon's temple to do it. Right? He's not going to go and offer the sins of the people before then. He's now going to the real altar. He's going before the real holiest of holies. Verse 13, for if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of an heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctified to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offereth himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to the living power, right? So how much better is it that we had Yahushua to go and do this before the Most High, right? And this was not done in a carnal tabernacle. This was done through the heavenly tabernacle, right? I'm going to jump.
Stop. You cover from 14. Go ahead. I'm just going to stay with you, probably.
Right. So now, to even give you a more signifying meaning, go to Matthew 26. Matthew 26.
Hold it.
Hold where we at in Romans.
No,
Hebrews, I mean, Salak. Matthew's 26th chapter. Not 26, 27. Matthew 27 and verse 50. Right. So remember everything that we just read before in Leviticus 16, that the Most High had Aaron go into the holiest of holies through the veil to the Ark of the Covenant, which is where he would be present at. Right. So now this is Matthew 27 and verse 50. It says, Yahushua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. Meaning what? He died. He was crucified. Now he died. The spirit now was now leaving the body, right? It says in verse 51, and behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from top to bottom, and the earth did quake and the rocks rent. So now when Yahushua died, the veil that's in the tabernacle, that's in the temple, rent, right? Remember, that veil was kept, right, to make a separation between the holiest of holies and the holy, the tabernacle. But when Yahushua died, that thing rent. The body was done, right? So now remember, he's not ever going into the holiest of holies that was on earth. That was just a similitude. He was going to go into the real holiest of holies, which is before the Most High. All of this was symbolic to Yahushua now carrying the blood of us, the sins of the people, before the Most High. Because Aaron had to sprinkle that before the ark, like we just read in 16. But Yahushua is not doing it down here. He had to go up there and do it.
Now, when that veil ripped, that ark was already moved, right? It was already planted in the mountain somewhere, right? Jeremy had already. They didn't have the ark when that veil ripped in the temple. They didn't have that ark. That ark was already hidden, right?
They still had it.
No,
I think they. Oh yeah, well Jeremiah. You're right, Jeremiah and Maccabees. Yeah, Maccabees.
Before,
yeah, right, Maccabees.
So they just had the veil in the temple. That's all they had. Was
right.
The veil there.
Right.
The ark wasn't in there.
Right.
They probably still had the shoe bread though, and the manure there.
Right, because remember when you read in the Apocrypha during the time of the Greeks and the Romans when they came in, remember the abomination of desolation and the things that was going on, right? How they sacrificed on the top of our altar another altar. Right. So now when they was coming in, they used to come into the temple, right? You read about how the king or whatever would send someone into the temple, and in the beginning, the Most High would stop them that they couldn't enter in. Like he sent angels or whatever, and they stopped them from doing it. But then because of the sins of the people, he would allow them to come into the temple, and they would rob and take gold and different things and take it back. And the Most High tells you in 2 Maccabees that he don't really care that much for the temple as much as he does for us, right? He allowed that to happen because we wasn't right. So now, but that ark is very, very holy, right? It has the manna from the time of Egypt still is in there, right? The rod from Aaron is still in there. The tablets with the finger of the Most High is in there. So that wasn't going to be something that everybody was just going to pillage, that they were just going to now just have. So that's what you referenced, and that was now placed into Mount Nebo when you read it in 2 Maccabees.
So they, even when he allowed people to go in that temple and they already took their ark out there. Their ark was gone. It was already hitting it.
Doing it correct.
Okay. But they couldn't get close to that ark.
Right. Well, we were reading about that in the Maccabees that's what when they did it. Yeah, right. But not here, right, but not during the time of Yahushua. That was going already.
Yeah. Well, it was going when he allowed the Romans in the temple too, right?
Well, at what point? Because we're reading about it in the Maccabees that is referencing what Jeremiah did. So yes, right, it was gone.
He wouldn't allow them,
yeah, no, because Jeremiah and them did it, so it was gone.
Yeah, he wouldn't allow the Romans to.
Oh yeah.
Couldn't get close to that. When they together, they'd have died if they touched it.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Moses killed one of our own who touched the Ark of the Covenant.
It was sliding over. He put his hands on it. Yeah. Okay. It was going by then. Jeremy was before the Maccabees. You know that verse I said? Right.
What? Second Maccabees, yes, Jeremiah is before the Maccabees.
Okay.
Second Maccabees 2, I think in 2. I think it's 2 and 2.
Yeah, because it was falling. The dude was to put his hands
Right.
on it. For falling, he died.
Second Maccabees 2, read from verses 4
For
all the way down to 7
okay. Mm-hmm. I know my. I mean, okay.
or 8.
Okay. Second man. Oh yeah, he wanted to fall. He got to mark the trail. Yeah, it's hot. But the birds ate the birds ate the.
All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to Hebrews 9, and what do we leave off? I'm gonna read from 13 and I'm gonna stop at 15.
Okay,
Hebrews 9 and 13. All right. So it says, for if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer sprinkling the unclean, sanctified to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to the living, to serve the living power. And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. That verse is a good verse to use to show also that Christ did not come for everybody. I'm going to read it again. This is another good verse to use along with Romans, the 9th chapter, to show that Christ did not come for everybody. I'm going to read it. It says, and for this cause.
Stop. Chapter 9. What verse?
I'm at verse 15.
Okay, there's no problem. Come on.
It says, and for this cause, he, Christ, is the mediator of the New Testament. Meaning the Old Testament was with bullocks. Not talking about the covenant, but the testament. You had to kill an animal, bullock, a goat, right? So it says, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament. Who was under the first testament? Israel. They're the ones who received the first covenant that included the first testament. So he now is the mediator of the New Testament for those that were under the first one, not for everybody. Everybody wasn't under the first testament, right? It says that they which are called, they who are under the first testament, who are being called by the Most High, might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Meaning, if they follow Yahushua and the Most High's commandments, they will receive the promise on the first wave. So that verse, link that with Romans 9, also reinforces that Christ did not come for everybody.
Okay, Romans 9 what?
Romans 9, you can put that with Romans 9 and 9 and 5. Well, not Romans 9, 4 and 5. Link that with Romans 9, 4 and 5.
Romans 4 and 5. You want to read that? But see, I'm going to have to find a way to explain it to these Hebrews I know, these other niggas I know out here today.
All right.
You hear me talking here?
Say again? You going to have to find a way?
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Got to find a way, bro.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
for real.
Yeah, you got to say you got to find a way.
Listen,
Which means you're going to have to study.
Years don't went by right here, and I got some. That's my boy right there. I know that.
All right, hold on. Before you go into that, because you're long with it, we want to get through this. We got some more scriptures. We got more scriptures. I don't want to go. It's already creeping up on Gabar's timeline, but we got about to blast out. But no, let's go on. Let's go on. So we're now going to jump to the book of Matthews first before I go to
Romans 9:4-5.
we finished with Romans, we finished with Hebrews. We're going to now jump to Matthews. Matthews, the 5th chapter.
Yeah, I know you're going. I know this will hit my life. Whatever you do, don't go back to Samaritan. Let them go. Matthew.
Matthews 5.
Uh-huh. You know me. Yeah. You gotta go home early today, goodbye? You gotta go home early. Yeah. I'll drop you.
5 and 21.
The New Testament.
Matthews 5
Ooh.
and 21. So it says, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, which really means murder. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment, right? So if you go and murder someone, then you was going to be liable to be held account for that murder that you committed, right? Just for precept, that's the same thing that we read in Exodus 20:13, right? But it says in 22, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of the judgment, right? So before, if you went and killed someone without cause, you was going to be held to that. Now, if you hate or you upset or you angry without just cause, right? Because someone could say, well, because he got that car, because he got that woman, because he got that job, because that's why you don't like the person or you envy to hate the person. Yahweh says, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Rakah, which means vain fellow, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hell fire, right? And that fool is like a wicked type. It's like a slang. It's not gonna say that's fool. It's like you really calling someone like a base person without cause. You defaming an individual, a righteous individual, but you shaming him to the point, and you know he's a righteous individual. You now putting that slander on him. You might be held in account for the day of judgment, which was going to be fire and brimstone, right? Hold that, or go to 1 John 3, which kind of go more into it. 1 John 3. 1 John 3. We're going to come back to Matthews 5. Because now we're getting into the spirit of also atoning. 1 John 3 and 5 says, 3 and 15 says, whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer. Read it again. Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer. Hateth his brother, meaning without just cause. Yahweh Shah just broke it down. Same thing how it was done with murder in the past. It's the same thing when you hate your brother. You are equal to a murderer. It says, and ye know that no murderer hath eternal life abiding in him. So if you are a murderer or if you hate your brother without just cause, it's almost equivalent to you now being in judgment to the hellfire. You're not going to be accepted in the first wave when Yahweh Shah comes back. You're not going to have that righteous name on you in the kingdom when Yahweh Shah comes back and the kingdom is established, because you had this in this setup, right? So now, 1 John 3:15. So it shows what type spirit we need to be in. Remember, Yahweh Shah gave us the prayer. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, right? So that's the key. We have to forgive as we want to be forgiven. The Most High is not going to just forgive all of our sins, but we're holding everyone else to the fire, right? No, we now have to have that spirit as well, right? Let's go back to Matthew 5 to touch on that. Matthew 5 and 23 now. So it says, therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee. So if you come in, we don't have the altar anymore, right? So it's like the same thing as you coming before the Most High to atone for your sins, right? You want Yahushua to go before the Most High and say, you know what? You pardon this brother for his sins that he's committed, his transgressions, right? So you now want to come before the altar and bring a gift. It says, and there remembers that thy brother has aught against thee. Meaning, as you're doing that, you think about, you say, you know what? I got a brother that got an issue with me. He said I done wronged him. And I ain't called that brother. I ain't, went and made things right. But you thinking about this as you go on before the altar, before the Most High, you still got this thing hanging over your shoulder. It says, leave there thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First, be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Remember, reconcilement and atonement is the same thing. We want to be reconciled back to the Most High. So the Most High says, I don't even want you to come before me until you go work that issue out with your brother, right? Especially if he now has something against you that you've done and you haven't gone to try to make that right. You got to go try to make that right. Are all things always going to be made right? No. But you got to go and try to make those steps to make sure everything is done in the right capacity. Right? Now, read it on. This is 25 now. Verse 25 says, agree with thine adversary quickly. So now when it says agree with thine adversary, who's the adversary that it's talking about here? Who's the adversary that is talking about here? Because we know an adversary also to be what? Or someone's in opposition to you, or there you go, or Satan, right? Satan is an adversary, right? The top adversary. Esau is his primary minion. And then you still got the other nations. And then you still got us, right? Because Satan can use everyone to fulfill his will, fulfill his duty, right? So here when it says agree with thine adversary, in this case, we know it's talking about who? When it's talking about adversary, that you're going to agree with. Satan. You're going to agree with Satan?
No.
Okay. If in this case, who is it talking about when it says agree with thine adversary? Is the Most High your adversary? Are you agree with thine adversary? When Yahushua said, turn the other cheek, who is he talking about? Your brother, right? He's talking about your brother, because in that case, your brother is the one that wants to come against you, either physically or figuratively, wants to come and smite you, tear you down, slander you, right? We knowing that they don't understand properly. They're not in their right frame of mind. So we would now have to give them mercy, consideration, give them space, and not treat them like they're the nation, where you don't usually give them that same space. You don't give them that same courtesy. So in Matthew 10:34, it says, a man's foes or your enemy or your adversary shall be they of your own household, right? A man's foes or his enemies shall be they of his own household. So this is the adversary that you now need to go agree with, make that right with, try to now come back to brotherhood, right? But Yahushua says back here in Matthew 5:25, Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officers, and thou be cast into prison. So make that right when the time is present. Because if you let it linger too long and you don't do what you need to do, they can now bring just cause to you. They can now bring a good accusation that says, listen, I gave this brother of mine time to go and reconcile this situation, and he chose not to do it, right? So now you're going to the judge, and the judge looking at the situation and saying, look, you had ample amount of time and you did nothing. Hold on, hold your point. You had ample amount of time and you did nothing. So now there's no more grace for you. Now I'm going to call an officer. Officer, come and get that man and then cast him into prison, right? That is also figurative for us, because now the Most High is looking and saying, listen, you don't want to make this situation right? I'm giving you a space. Do it while you have the time when they're in the way with you. Then after a while, when the time runs out, the judge is going to go to the officers, in this case, which is the angels, and say, listen, cast him into prison, or cast him into the fire, cast him into utter darkness, because he didn't follow the ordinance. He let mischief and folly hang along too long, and he didn't make this right with his brother. Remember, the two greatest commandments is what?
Love thy brother, and love thy neighbor, with love thyself.
Right. Two greatest commandments. Love the heart, love the Most High with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then love your brother or your neighbor as you do yourself, talking about those of your people. So now if you only do one and you don't do the other, you're not fulfilling the two greatest commandments, right? And the Most High is like, look, Yahushua made it simple. I ain't even going into the 612th law or not the 612th, but the 583rd law or the 353 law. He's not even going into these two. If you do these two, whatever the Most High wants you to do, you do it. Whatever the laws have that you now deal with your brother, you do it, right? We're reading them. It's in the Old Testament, right? So now you got to go and do that. If you choose not to, then all of them is now you're going to be held account for. And you will not be justified in the day when Yahushua come. He's going to say, look, get him, get them, and them. And you all standing there in the midst. And you're like, well, man, I'm seeing brothers just get taken up. Where's my turn? They're going to say, no, you getting cast into prison or this lake of fire because you didn't do this. Remember, this is rehearsal of the righteous acts. So rehearsing the righteous acts goes through every gamut of your character. It shapes and molds you as the right man and the right woman. All these little details. Forgiveness is a very hard thing to do for some people. To say, listen, I was at odds with that brother, or I don't really like that brother, but I need to go and make this right. Man, the hell with him. I ain't gotta get to the kingdom through him. So I ain't gotta worry about it. But we reading here where Yahushua says that's not the case. Don't come to me if you got a problem with that brother, or that brother got a problem with you and you ain't rectify it. Don't come to me yet. Don't come. Because if you do, I'm going to say, I don't even know you. Be gone.
It don't matter if you did something to him or he did something to you.
No, it's not even if it don't matter, because if he did something to you, you've already told him, listen, brother, you did such and such. And he now has the ball in his court where he now has to come and reconcile that situation, right? Usually if you don't tell a person, he ain't going to know, right? He ain't going to know that he did something wrong. So now when the person transgresses, you go and you say, brother, I felt the way when you said that about me, or I felt the way when you didn't give me such and such, or I felt the way that you kept my stuff for so long. And now I'm feeling like you just really disrespected me. You don't think that, I have right to my own, whatever that is, you are now holding that. And not only you holding it, it's festering it in you. Now you can sit and pray to the Most High. Most High, give me patience. Give me patience so I can deal with this. That person is praying to the Most High that he don't or she don't bug out and handle the situation carnally. So now the ball's in that man or woman's court that now they need to come and try to fix that. Are all of them going to always be fixed? No. But that's where you got the counsel. That's where you now can go to other brothers and say, listen, I want to talk to this brother and I tried to work it out, But it didn't work out when you read Matthews 18:15 on down. And then it goes to the next. But this is what you need to do. If you don't, then don't come before the Most High in Yahweh Shai. Right? Most High's will, nobody in here has any situation like that, where you got an adversary sitting out there that you know that they upset with you, and you haven't gone and tried to work that situation out. This is pertaining to your people. We're not talking about Moab at the doggone the Chinese store or the go whatever. We're not talking about that. We're talking about your people. You have to first. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely.
So if he got something against you, then he has to reconcile that. If you got something against something, you.
That's why when it says in verse 23, therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother have aught against thee, right? He has an accusation or he has an issue against you. You did something that was wrong. It's against you, not against the other brother. He ain't saying I done you wrong, it's against me. No, he's saying it's against you. That person who's coming and bringing this before the Most High, this gift, you got to go deal with that. You got some pending things that's sitting out here. Go try to handle that first.
Okay.
Right. So then it says, I'm finishing off verse 26. It says, verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. Meaning you can't come out of your prison. You can't come out of being cut off until you handle that situation. Whatever the situation is, you got to try to deal with that. All right. So now let's go to Isaiah 58 and 2. Isaiah 58 and verse, I'm gonna start at 3, not 2, verse 3. Come on. All right, everybody got it? So Isaiah 58 and 3, it says, wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast, ye find pleasure and exact all your labors. So the first half of this verse is pretty much Israel stating this to the Most High, as if to say, look, we've done what you asked, but we ain't seeing no reward in this. Like, we're not seeing no help. But read it again. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not? Most High, you don't see what we're doing? Most High, you're not paying attention to what I'm doing here? It says, wherefore have we afflicted our soul, meaning fasting, and thou takest no knowledge, meaning you don't know that I spent 2 days fasting, Most High, and I ain't getting no help. You ain't blessed me with such and such. But the Most High's answer to that is, behold, in the day of your fast, ye find pleasure and exact all your labors, right? So on the fasting day, you're supposed to be now humbling yourself before me, but you out here doing your own thing. You finding pleasure on your own and not now putting away all your carnal pleasures, right? On the fast, you're not supposed to be going out and working and watching the game and doing things that now require you not focusing on the Most High. The fast is supposed to separate yourself from all these things, right? Hold that. Go to 1 John 2. 1 John, I believe it's 2. Hold that. Hold is Isaiah 58. So remember, behold, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure and exact all your labors, right? So this is what it says in 1 John 2, and I'm read verse 15 and 16. 1 John 2 and 15, it says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. For if any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him, right? So when it's talking about the love of the world, it's talking about all things pertaining to the world that are sinful, right? That are sinful, because we're in the world. Speaking about the things that are sinful and carnal that are not profitable to a man or woman's spirit, to uplift them into the righteousness of the Most High. Don't love those things or anything surrounding it. It's going to go into it. Verse 16. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, right? And the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. So things that you may see, it may cause a spirit to come upon you to envy, to hate, to covet, right? To want to steal, to do these things. You see a car, you see a woman, you see a man, right? You see that person's position. These things, the lust of the flesh, and then you may have certain things. Then it says, and the pride of life, right? Sometimes things become or make you prideful because you have it. You're thinking that you're above everyone. That's what this world teaches us to do, right? Look down upon others. Right? Yahushua taught us about that with masters and servants. He said the people of this world, they do this to their servants. That's not what you're going to do. Right? That's not how you're going to act. But that's how it operates in this society. So you don't want to put that spirit on your mind. So you want to now separate for how the world looks at pleasure. Right? Because it comes with another type spirit that's not conducive for the Most High. When we fast, that's why when you read it, I think it's in Nehemiah. Nah, we're not going there. I'm just referencing. I think it's in Nehemiah 9. When they fasted, they separated themselves from everybody as a nation. They didn't go amongst the nation. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They separated themselves so they could not be a part of the world or within the world. So they could focus more on the Most High. Right? Things that you see, we shouldn't be watching any old thing. Because you may say, oh, yeah, I want to watch this show right here. You know, you're watching your normal things, and guess what? It causes your spirit to go and start lusting after certain things that you see that are carnally minded, right? So especially on today, you want to be careful of what you start dealing with spiritually, right? You do not want to do with any of your pleasures. Matter of fact, drop this, go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 7. 1 Corinthians 7 and 3. 1 Corinthians 7 and 3. I just turned it back on. I was hot. You can turn it back off. I was hot up here. So 1 Corinthians 7 and 3 says, let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. Meaning what?
Let the wife follow the husband.
Huh?
Let the husband.
It says, let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise unto the wife, likewise also the wife unto the husband. Meaning that the husband and wife have to now satisfy each other.
Yeah, okay. Agree with each other.
Right. Agree, but also satisfy each other carnally, meaning they have to come together here and there, right? Do benevolence.
Be more specific.
Sex. You have to provide sex. You have to apply attention. You got to apply care. There's a lot of things that you have to focus on your wife or focus on your husband. Tend to them, provide them care, right? I'm going to touch on it a little bit. Give me 1 second.
Is that why they say that the wife can't turn the husband down when he wants some sex?
Right, or vice versa. Right? It says the wife have not power over her own body, but the husband. And likewise, also the husband have not power over his own body, but the wife. That's why it says they both need to render unto each other due benevolence. Now, watch this. It says, defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time. Meaning you can't now keep your husband or your wife, right? Y'all married, and then you say, you know what, I don't want to deal with you, right? You defraud him or her of their desires, right? Because now you're married. And then it says, but for a time that's consensual. To what? It says that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer and come together again, that Satan tempt ye not for your incontinency. So it's saying that, listen, you normally should deal with your wife or your husband, you know, satisfy each other. You know, that's what they do in the marriage. The only time where you should defraud one another is for prayer or fasting. When you're fasting, like on the Day of Atonement, you should not be rendering due benevolence unto each other, right? Because number one, this is a holy day, right? You now also need to do this on other days. Outside of the Day of Atonement, you may want to fast next week, or you may want to fast some other time. When Yahushua was dealing with the brother and he was asking about eternal life, he said, I fast twice a week. This brother was fasting twice every week, right? So when you're fasting, you're not going to be rendering under each other due benevolence, because you're now focused with the Most High, right? And if you're now entwined into prayer, like something is really going on with you and you need to pray to the Most High to help you get through certain things, that time you need to separate from your spouse with consent. That's why it says it be with consent for a time, right? And then you come together again. After that's all over, then you come together again later on, right? Why? It says that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency, meaning the time that you defrauded yourself, this person is now all got picked up energy and they start now getting tempted to go do what? Go out there and seek somebody else, right? They're being tempted with another man or another woman because of your incontinency between each other. But the point of the matter is to show you that while you're doing your fasting, your own pleasures and desires are put to the back burner, right? That's why even food and water you ain't even dealing with, right? Food and water to some people, you know, I know this brother, Ashrite brother at my job, food is a necessity. Meaning, is that the right word? Meaning he can just eat the same thing every day. Right. The only reason why he's eating because he's hungry. Right? Whereas other people, food is a pleasure. Like, I like food. I like taste. I like different food. I like how it look. I like how it tastes. I like the different season. I like different herb. So that is a thing for some other people, whereas others don't even really care about it. You can put whatever. You can put Brussels sprouts every day. I'll eat that just to fill me up so I can go do what I need to do. But in this case, we put away everything, food, water, your own desires and pleasures to focus on the Most High, right? So this is now going back to the question that is being posed here in Isaiah 53. Let's go back to Isaiah 53. I'm sorry, 58.
All right, you with me so far?
So back to Isaiah 58 and verse 3 again. So it says, wherefore have we fasted, said they, and thou seest not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the days of your fast, you find pleasure and exact all your labors. Meaning anybody that owed you something, that's the time that you want to go and get that money or get that thing back from them that they had from you. That's when you want to choose to do that, on the day of your fast. But you expect me, speaking about the Most High, to accept that and acknowledge that you're fasting to get closer to me, but you're doing all your own things, right? You can fast. That's why it's not just about the food and the water, because your spirit ain't intact. Then it don't mean anything. You just saying, okay, I ain't going to drink or I ain't going to eat, but I'm out here doing my own thing. And you want the Most High to acknowledge that? No. Because that's not the purpose of what the Most High wants you to think about on a fast. Verse 4, behold, ye fast for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. You fasting, but you out here arguing people. You got an issue and you want to choose that to go now and bring it to somebody's house. But I'm fasting. Yeah, you could do exactly that. You could fast and still do those things, right? But that's not what the Most High is looking for. So that's why he's not answering prayers, or that's not why he's helping you out or giving you blessings when you need it, because your fast is not real. It says, ye shall not fast as ye do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. You smiting with you out here fighting, smiting with the fist of wickedness on a day that's supposed to be sacred or separated to the Most High. You dealing with any old thing. The Lord says that's not, you better not do that on my fast, or a fast that's supposed to be dedicated to me, right? Verse 5, is it such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul? Is that what I set up? It says, is it to bow down his head as a bulrush, and to spread sackcloth on his and ashes under him? So is it to now look like you're fasting? It says when you hold your head down as a bulrush. You know what a bulrush is?
Run it to you, lift you up and throw you somewhere?
No. Let me see if I can show you, or if I got a picture of a bulrush. All right, let's see. This is one. All right, this might be one. All right, so
Hey, what he went? Yeah.
all right, so when you look at the bulrush, right, there's different types of bulrush when you see it. But now when you look at it, as it comes up in a minute, you'll have some of the brush when you look it out there and like the different ponds and different areas. This here is a symbolic of what we're talking about right now in Isaiah. Is it to be like a bulrush to hold down his head? You see how some of them is like straight up, but then you have others that's all bent over, right? It now is leaned over. The top here is kind of heavy and it's causing it to kind of fall over. So now when it's asking that question, is it to bow down his head as a bulrush? When you're fasting, you ain't eating or drinking, and you like, now you look all down like you are so weak that you are now doing a one-day fast of separating yourself from water and drink, and now you can't function, right? That's the kind of fast that's what the Most High is asking. Is that the kind of fast you expect me to accept from you, right? Go to Matthew 6. Go to the book of Matthew, the 6th chapter. Hold this. Hold this. Go to Matthew 6. Matthew 6 and 16. Right. It says Matthew 6 and 16. Moreover, when ye fast, this is what the Most High is asking, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, like a bulrush, with your head hung over, your face is all sullen and down. Don't be like the hypocrites. Why? For they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. So they're looking for sympathy from the people, right? They look like, yo, what's wrong with you? Yo, I'm fasting, brother. Word? Dang. How long you been fasting? You've been fasting for a whole week. Look at his face. You see his face? That brother, man, you sure you don't need anything? That guy's on a level, man. He must be fasting all the time, right? So the next time they see you, you now on another level to them. It's like, yeah, that's that brother, man. I wish I'd be just like you, brother. Fasting like that. He looked like he's about to die fasting. He had to fast about 30 days, I bet. Right? People start talking about you and they start bringing you things just because of what you now have projected to them. So Yahushua said, don't trust them. These guys are hypocrites, right? That's not the spirit that I want you to be in on a fast. Check this out. Verse 17, but thou, when thou fastest, anoint thy head, and wash thy face, right? So when you fast, you now supposed to appear normal to people. Not only just normal, but you're supposed to be upbeat, right? Everything is glistening in your bed and everything's shining. You ain't want to be out there looking all scruffy duffy, right? That's how it was different in the past when they just say, yeah, they came and they put ashes on themselves and sackcloth, because that way it would appear to a person you looking like, damn, look at that brother. You know, right off the bat, damn, that brother fasting. He going through something. Or she going through something. Got on the doggone potato sack, everything. Yahweh Shai said, we're going to take it to another level. Y'all going to fast, but y'all going to be normal. Y'all going to appear like nothing is going on. That now where it now is something for you, like you said, the discipline. Yes, a discipline. That say, can I function into spiritual righteousness and be now normal, like nothing is happening? That's where you'll see and understand Moses and Yahweh Shai and Ezra, where they were able to fast for multiple days and still be able to function. And then after the fast, then they go and they eat. Right? I usually always allude to it where when we out at camp sometimes and we teaching and you in the spirit, as a matter of fact, that's like about a few weeks ago. We went out there right after the Sabbath service ended early. We was out there, got out there like about 1 o'clock. And in my mind, it was like, all right, we're going to be out here until like about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, right? Come back, right? It was just me and Yao Kanan. And then like 8:30, 9 o'clock, right? But while you're in the spirit of things, time just goes. Time just goes. Because you're now so in the spirit, and the spirit is now working with you. You're not thinking about the pizza or the burger or the this or the that. You are now in the zone, in the spirit. The spirit is teaching you things. The spirit is using you as a vessel to bring out things, right? All that is going on. When Moses was on the mount, imagine Moses. Most High is not only, the Most High, matter of fact, go to Second Ezra. Go to Second Ezra. Second Ezra. I'm going to make sure I get this verse. Second Ezra. Chapter 14 and verse 3. Yep. So this is Second Ezra in the Apocrypha, page 31, chapter 14, verse 3, right? Going into what Moses was going through when he was with the Most High, right? It says, then said he unto me, speaking to Ezra, Uriel speaking to Ezra, in the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses and talk with him when my people served in Egypt. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him up to the Mount Sinai, where I held him by me a long season, meaning what? 40 days, right? It says, and told him many wondrous things and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, right? So here it is when Moses on the mount, the Most High didn't just tell Moses certain things. He did what? He showed him the secrets of the times to say, this is what this looked like. This is what's going to happen when this period happened. This is what's going to happen in the last day before Christ comes back. This is going to happen during 70 AD before the fall of Jerusalem. He was seeing all these things like how John the Revelator was seeing all of it during his time on the Isle of Patmos, right? So this is what now was filling up his time, where he was in the spirit of things to see what was going on and hear about it, and then now record all this stuff. So when you are now in the spirit and receiving and seeing certain things, man, time just goes. Even so much on the carnal level, they got a saying. Funny how time flies
When you're having fun.
When you're having fun.
All right, man.
Right? Funny how it's a funny thing, man. Because man,
you right.
I didn't even know it. It's already nighttime. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Where did the time go? Right? It seemed like it was just only an hour. Right? Think about it. When the Most High said he did the earth in 7 days, to us is 1,000, but time can just fly where days go by. So imagine Moses probably that 40 days was probably like a day. Man, it's 40 days? I thought I was up here for 1 day. Right? So now going back to Isaiah 58. So Isaiah 58 and verse 5. Did I finish Matthews? I think I did. Just want to make sure. Matthews 6. Did I stop at 18? I read 7. Come. So going back, I didn't finish Matthews 6 a lot. So Matthew 6 and 18 now. It says, I'm going to read 17 again. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. That's what we want. We want to fast in secret and be rewarded openly, as opposed to fasting openly and being wanting to be rewarded secretly, because that ain't going to happen. You're going to get your reward from man, but not from the Most High. All right, back to Isaiah 58 and verse 5. It says, this is such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul. Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Wilt thou call this a fast and an acceptable day to the Lord? Is not this fast that I have chosen to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, that ye break every yoke? So the fast is supposed to be removing yourself from sins and releasing those that have been kept under bondage, taking those and redeeming them from prison. Even in the law, on the Day of Atonement, check out what the Most High has. Leviticus chapter 25. Hold that. Leviticus chapter 25. Leviticus chapter 25. Nine. Leviticus 25 and 9. So it says, then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month, in the Day of Atonement. Shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. So on the atonement, the proclamation to now signify that you're releasing all of those things that people had, whether it was the person or their possessions, right? That was done on the Day of Atonement. So the Lord is saying on a fast, this is to be the intent. You don't want to put people in bondage. You don't want to hold people captive to certain things. This is the time that you now release certain bonds and bondages on the days that you're fasting. You're supposed to try to make things right with people. Give them something to look forward to, uplift them, to bring them out of a mental or physical captivity. This is what we're supposed to be striving for when we come before the Most High, to now show our solemnity that we are now trying to do right by him. All right. So back to Isaiah 58. Isaiah 58 and 9. So verse 6 again, is it not the fast that I have chosen to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, that ye break every yoke? Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou covered him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh, right? So you can link that with Matthew's 25. I'm not going to go there. Just write it down. Matthew's 25 and 36. This goes into the discussion that Yahushua had with the disciples about clothing the naked and feeding them. And they asked, when did we do that to you, Yahushua? And Yahushua said, when you've done it to these least, you've done it unto me. So this is the same thing, that we're supposed to go and consider the poor and show favor unto them. While we're doing that to the poor, is as if we're doing it to Yahushua.
What verse is that?
Matthew's 25, 36 on down.
25,
25, 36.
36, 25, 36.
Right. So this is going again to how Yahushua is in the volume of the book. Because when you deal with the poor, there's a lot of laws about how we're supposed to deal with the poor. Right? During the first fruits, it says, don't glean the corners of your fields. Leave them for the poor.
Right.
Right? All of these things, all these things is what the poor are supposed to be dealt with. So now, in hindsight, when you doing that for the poor, Yahushua says, think of it as me. If I was a poor man out there, would you leave me food? Of course I'd leave you food, Yahushua. Why wouldn't I do that for you? All right, do it for the same for everybody else.
Right.
All right. It says, verse 7, is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thy own flesh? Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be their reward, or your defense, right? So now when you do these things, or you have the right spirit in mind after you've accomplished this, then your light is going to project. Then it says your health, even your physical health, shall spring forth speedily, meaning the Most High can turn what you had as an ailment and you don't have it no more, right? According to his measure. And then it says your righteousness will go before you, meaning that's when the Most High is going to see. The first verse in the third, and when we read in verse 3, where it says, wherefore have we fasted, you don't see it, Most High? Because you ain't see your righteousness. But when you do these things, then your righteousness will go before you, and the Most High see it. Verse 9, then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, and putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity. So this is going back to verse 3 again. He says, if thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, meaning putting people, holding them to certain things. Where's my money? Where's my this? Where's my that? And then it says, and putting forth of the finger, like how it talks about in Isaiah 13. When you put forth the finger, you know you ain't right, right? You know that's wicked as I don't know what you doing, right? You pointing the finger. You're now accusing someone else and not focusing on yourself.
Yeah.
This is what now is supposed to build yourself up, but everything is projected everywhere else. So it says, if thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity. So on this day, on your day of your fast, you shouldn't be dealing with vanity, right? Meaning this ain't the time to talk about, did Tory Lanez really shoot her in the foot? Because I'm hearing now that he's saying he did. That's not the time to be dealing with that, right? We ain't want to deal with no nonsense today, right? You want to deal with things on how to help uplift yourself and your people. That's what you want to do. Verse 10, and if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then thy light rise in obscurity and thy darkness be as the noonday. And the Lord shall guide thee continually and satisfy thy soul in drought and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. That's figurative and literal. The Most High can do that. Whereas if you're doing the right thing, where all this is going on right now, that's going on out there in the world, with all of the corona, with all of the lack of food, with all of the police brutality and the killings, the Most High said, in the midst of that, I can guide you continually. Means show you the right way how to navigate through all of this. Yeah. How to see when the news and the people is lying and they leading you. I can guide you through all that. Then it says, I can satisfy your soul in a drought. Where people ain't getting no water, they ain't getting no food. Guess what I can do for you? I can give you food. Where people ain't getting it, I can nourish you. Then it says, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. He can do that physically and he could do that spiritually. Where people don't know what's going to happen. You do. You're like St. John 3:7-38, where the waters is coming out of your belly like a river of running water. That's what the Most High will do for you. 7:38. John 7:38. Right. Last two verses, verse 11. And the Lord shall guide thee continually and satisfy thy soul in drought and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build, and they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. So the 1/3, this is what's going to be known of us. We're going to be the ones that's going to build up the old waste places. Remember, it tells you that Israel is desolate. Our homeland is desolate. You got people that's living there right now. Yeah. You got the Palestinians. You got the Israelis. You got Cush. You got a lot of people that's over. You got Moab. You got Aram. You got a lot of them over there in the land. But in the Most High's mind, that place is desolate. You know why? Because they ain't got no life in them. Nope. The same way how we was a valley of dry bones, you think they without the law is going to have some life in them? But the Most High's no, that place is desolate. It's barren. It's polluted. So we are going to be the ones that's going to go back and rebuild the desolate waste places, right? And now bring it back up, and then they're going to call us, we're the repairers of the breach. We was the ones that made it through this time in these last days to be the ones that the Most High send back to go build it back up. But it all starts with us getting our spirit right. It all starts with making sure that we use the days like the Day of Atonement and any other day like you may fast on to draw closer to the Most High and not draw closer to the world, right? All right, so that was it on that, right? So now, so let's go to give me 1 second. Let's go to 1 Kings 8. Yes, we've done with Isaiah. 1 Kings 8. So 1 Kings 8:61. So 1 Kings 8:61 says, let your heart therefore be perfect with the Lord our power, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments as at this day, right? So You want to be perfect with the Most High, right? So how do we be perfect with the Most High? By keeping his commandments. Will we be 100%? No. That's why Paul said we're supposed to strive for perfection, right? We're supposed to strive to get to that point, which we're now trying to draw closer to the Most High. So this is what Solomon told us back then in the spirit of the Most High, that we be perfect with him. Go to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 48. So Matthew 5 and 48 says, be ye there perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. I remember we was at the camp a couple weeks ago, and the sister was saying that we can't be perfect. So why try to be perfect, right? But this is an order, a commandment from Yahweh Shah, that we try to be perfect, that we try to be one with the Most High as best we can. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that is to follow his commandments. That's how you be perfect, right? Even in your sin, even in you coming short, guess what? By you acknowledging that you messed up, and then you go and you make reconciliation with the Most High and come back and repair that and say, okay, I'm not doing that thing again. And you now from that next day or the next hour, you say, I'm not doing that. Now I can remove that out. That's how we become perfect, right? By trying to cover up the holes or the patches on your body, trying to put on the whole garment of the whole armor of Yahweh Shah. Some of us got a helmet, we got a shoulder, elbows exposed, we got the midst thing, but you know, they can get you on your elbow. Your knees is out open, but you got the things on your leg. We're trying to put the whole armor on. You got like 2/3 of the armor on, or you got 2/5 of the armor on. We want to get the whole armor. So the focus point is to get those parts that's still uncovered, covered up. Right? All right. Let's go to Luke. This might be the last. Luke 5 and 33. Luke 5 and 38. There you go. There you go. It's part of the feast food that you normally eat after a holy day, right? Yeah. So this is Luke 5 and 33. It says, and they said unto him, why do the disciples of John fast often and make prayers? And likewise the disciples of the Pharisees, but thine eat and drink, right? So this is what an observation that the people saw when they was observing those who was following after John, those who was following behind the Pharisees, and those who was following the apostles, the disciples of Yahweh Shah. The other two groups was fasting, right? Praying. But Yahweh Shah and Peter, James, John, Thomas, but they weren't fast. They weren't fasting. They was eating and drinking wine. Remember, they said Yahweh Shah was a wine bibber. So they drinking wine with Yahweh Shah and everything else. They was like, yo, what's going on here? Why we all in that mode, but y'all out here doing like, what's going on? Verse 34. And he said unto them, can ye make the children of the bride chamber fast while the bridegroom is with them? So while you now with the groom, you're going to enjoy, right? The party is like, it's right here. We with you. We enjoying this. Everything you do, Yahweh Shah, we doing. We ain't going to fast. If you eat, we going to eat with you, right? You gonna know, we're going to go with you. So they are seeing all these things. And now Yahweh Shah recognizes that, look, they enjoying my time here while I'm on the earth, right? So they're not going to be fasting as if, you know, they need help. I'm here. Right. That they need guidance. I'm here. I'm tutoring them. I'm teaching them. I'm healing them. I'm doing all these things. So they don't need to fast right now. Verse 35, but the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days, right? So when Yahushua was crucified, taken up, after he left, after his 40 days, because he came back and was on the earth for 40 days.
Yeah.
Then he was taken up to the Most High. After they left, after he left, then that was a time for fasting. From that point up until now was a time for fasting, which means we need to fast often, right? We need to fast often. Remember, you can write down in Luke 18 and 12, the brother who said he fasts twice a week. That's Luke 18 and 12, right? Now, remember, again, fasting just ain't just fasting. You got to have the right mind and spirit involved with the fast. So just because somebody say, yeah, I fast 3 days. I fast for 3 days of the week. Okay, but was your spirit right? Right? Was you fasting for the right reason? Was you doing your own pleasures? Was you doing this? Were you doing that? If you were doing that, then that fast don't count. Don't matter. It don't count. Right? One more. Book of Tobit. Luke 18 and 12. Yeah. Right. Even with Islam and Muslims, they fast half the day. Right. I don't know if it was like 3 weeks. I forget how many times what it is, but they fast during the day and they eat at night during what they call Ramadan. But the Bible's fast is an even to an even thing, right? It's not a sun up to sundown thing. It's an even to an even thing, making a whole complete day that you go through it, right? There's days, you know, I would have done that fast just normal, just going to work, right? And then when you look at when they're fasting, like they're not always involved in separating themselves from pleasures or separating themselves from the lust of the world. They're still dealing with that because it's just Ramadan. They'll go do a prayer and they go back into their normal carnal work or their normal carnal business, and then they eat at night. The Lord wanted you to separate for a whole day, right? So what verse did I just call? Tobit. Water. The book of Tobit, the 12th chapter. And the 8th verse. Now we read this a little while ago. All right, Tobit 12 and 8. It says, prayer is good with fasting and alms and righteousness. A little with righteousness is better than much with unrighteousness. It is better to give alms than to lay up gold. So it says prayer is good with fasting and alms, right? Alms can be monetary giving. It can be substance giving. It can be time giving, right? But you are giving, not only you're doing just prayer and fasting, you're going out and you're also now distributing or doing something to help others or those who are in need, those who lack it. Zakar.
Okay, go off a verse, everybody, and let's say at the bottom, I'm going to read the whole thing. It is good to keep close the sacred of a king, but it is honorable to reveal the work of God. He's going to bless it right here. Do that which is good, and no evil shall touch you.
You like that?
Like that. But you know what else I like what you gave us last week? Go to Ecclesiastes, when we read 7 and 8, I'm going to go to Ecclesiastes. I read this to my kids. And they said, oh, Dad, give me this book. My kids don't have this book. I got to get started this book right here.
Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, and the apostle.
Ecclesiasticus.
Cuss. And it say right here, I read this to my kids. Y'all got it? What you get? You can write this down here. Ecclesiasticus. It says, you got it? Chapter 7. verse 1 and 2. Let me know you get it over there on your phone. Okay. It says, let me know you get it. It says, do no evil, so shall no harm come into thee. Depart from the unjust, and iniquity shall turn away from thee. I say, so do good, and like what you just read there, I wrote that down. That's good right there. We get that book from myself from the plane. You get into this box, I'm gonna get started this book right here. Got about like 10 of them. I'm gonna have to order a stack of these because I read to them on the phone. Well, Michael Socorro, I read to them on the phone. And then them 4 out there, I read to them on the phone.
Con.
Where you get this book from? God.
All right.
Anyway, back to y'all.
So with that, we're gonna close out the service for the night. We're gonna continue with the Day of Atonement. We got the morning Sabbath service, which we're in the book of Joshua. I think 5 and 6 or 4 and 5. I can't remember. Let me see real quick. We're in the book of Joshua for the Sabbath, morning Sabbath service, 5 and 6. So we'll go through the morning Sabbath service lesson, and then we'll see how the Spirit goes. We may continue on after the Sabbath service with more Day of Atonement scriptures to carry on through the afternoon. So we'll see if we're going to do that. Go out to camp. We'll see. But Joshua 5 and 6 is for the morning Sabbath service. So I see a few people was able to stay up. That's Tawab. Normally I would have seen the numbers drop off. Few people stayed up. I see that's Tawab. Remember, I'm gonna try to get through this day. Whatever you bring into your spirit outside of the Sabbath service, in the morning, throughout the afternoon, you want to try to make sure you get your prayers in. Get your prayers into the Most High, asking for forgiveness for the sins that you've done, whether it was due to a fall into temptation or unknowing, right? You ignorantly sinned on certain things, and later on you found out about it, or things that you probably did that you don't even know you did, right? You read Job. Job offered up prayers and sacrifices for his children, unknowing if he just assumed that they had done things, right? Who was there without sin? So want to set up your prayers for both sins that you may have fallen victim to through temptation or ignorance or through Satan's guile or what have you, and then try to do something, or if you surround yourself something productive that's going to uplift your spirit to try to draw you closer, or learning things that's going to now help better you or help better the nation, help better your people, right? These are things that you need to focus on tomorrow. Remember, put aside all carnal work, right? If you don't have to, for those who've got to work tomorrow, try to your best of your ability. Definitely continue to fast, but try to stay in the spirit. If you can, if your job is, if you do have to work and you couldn't get time off, if your job is lenient enough where you can still listen to certain things, get an earpiece or what have you, listen to the service, listen to certain uplifting things. If you're home and when we sign off, try to find other teachings and videos or what have you that bring some knowledge and wisdom until you continuing in the fast to help draw you closer to the Most High. But again, remember the things that we brought out as far as for the not forgetting the alms, or not forgetting, what type of spirit and mind frame you're supposed to be on this day. Sometimes, it's best, on a Day of Atonement, if you can refrain from like the carnal telephone calls. Like, there's certain calls. I know I get certain calls. I look at the name on my call ID. I know what it's about. I'm not dealing with that today, right? I don't want to talk about this or talk about that. I'll get you in the evening, tomorrow evening, right? So I'm not answering carnal phone calls. if if there may be certain things that may be, you gotta, if it's your parents, you gotta check on them, make sure they okay, cool, but you want to keep conversations short that's not profitable to the day. So again, try to focus and be in the spirit that the Lord wants us to be in, that we read in Isaiah chapter 53. All right. So with that, we want to say again, happy Day of Atonement. Remember, this is a celebration. When we read in Leviticus, it said to celebrate this Sabbath, right? This is a day of rest from everything else. So celebrate this day. Be thankful, be privileged for this day where you can now have another year of your slate, your past year slate washed clean, if so be that the Most High show you fortune. So be thankful that you have this opportunity that most are not being able to take advantage of, but we have it. So send up your prayers and enjoy this day and learn something, do something in a righteous manner. All right, so with that, we're going to send up the closing prayers. So again, Ashar HaKaparium, or Happy Day of Atonement. And we'll get into some more tomorrow. With that, somebody get the blinds. We'll set the closing prayers.
Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Netalanawa, Par Yahagabin, Tawada Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath, Yasha Ella.
Read the wrong one.
I might well upon you all Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushai, Shemai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Mayaka Allah, Waha Allahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shemal Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Waha Kaziyat, Banya, Yasha Allah, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabiim, Kakama, Rabiim, Da'aith, Rabiim, Bayana, Rabiim, Sabalanwa, Rabiim, Amawan, Rabiim, Aqua, Rabiim, Ahabiim, Rabiim, Agana, Rakhanaya, Wasalat, Ko, Kata Ayamnawa, Laha'akim, Wa'akiwath, Wayasha Allah, from Yad, Wa'iwalam, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Thawada, Amen. English translation: Most High, in the name of Christ, or Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers of angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahushua, thank you. So pray it. Four corners. Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem,
Hashem,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahweh Shai,
Barak Noah,
Barak Noah,
Wayasha Allah,
Yasha'Allah,
Wabat Yasaporim,
Babat Yasaporim,
Shema Yashrallah, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh, Achad. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us and Israel and the house of books or schools. Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. All right, with that, again, we'll say Ashar HaKaparim, happy day of atonement, happy Shabbath. Most High's will, we'll hear and see each other during the morning service in a few hours. Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom.